The board has participated in a closed attorney-client session and a risk management session. At the risk management session, one of the cases was Trent Jurek versus Palm Beach County School Board. Mrs. McQuinn recused herself from that meeting because of a potential conflict. We'll now call the regular board meeting of the School Board of Palm Beach County for February 17, 2021 to order at 5:05 p.m. Mrs. Bass, please call the roll.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Alexandria Ayala.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barrieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
Here.
We have quorum with all 7 board members present. Also joining us on our dais is Superintendent Dr. Donald Fenoy. And joining us here at the tables in front of us until they can once again join us on the dais are no longer necessary for social distancing purposes, our General Counsel Sean Bernard, Inspector General Teresa Michael, and Board Clerk Carol Bass. Palm Beach County Student Council President Santiago Alvarez will be joining us virtually through Google Meets. Senior staff members will join us periodically as directed by the superintendent. Viewers and listeners can access the meeting today by either watching on Comcast channels 234 and 235, UVerse channel 99, or by using the YouTube link on our webpage at palmbeachschools.org. We also offer a listening-only option, which the public can access by calling 561-357-5900 or toll-free at 1-866-930-7015. The meeting ID is 1-561-880-1124 #. This meeting is being transcribed by a closed captioner, so remember to speak at a reasonable pace. Will everyone please stand for the pledge to be led by Superintendent Fenoy?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome any public speakers who are joining us in person today. While your attendance here at the board office is appreciated, please be mindful of important safety protocols that the district now has in place to conform with COVID-19 safety guidelines. Please respect this cautionary warning that in the event of interference with the orderly processes of the meeting, failure to follow the safety protocols and procedures, or otherwise disruptive conduct, this conduct will result in removal of the person from the meeting. Please abide by these protocols so Palm Beach County School Police officers do not have to take action. We have 3 items. We have no minutes to approve. We have 3 items to be added today: P2, P3, and PR1. Good cause exists for adding P2 to the agenda so employees can begin in their new positions as soon as possible. As to P3, good cause exists to enable timely processing of staff employment actions. Item PIR1, Memorandum of Understanding with Department of Emergency Management. Good cause exists for adding item PIR1 to this agenda as it will benefit the health, safety, and welfare of the Glades area community by providing a convenient location for eligible residents to receive COVID-19 vaccinations. On January 10th, 2021, the Florida Division of Emergency Management requested the use of the parking lot and certain indoor areas of the Anquan Bolden Stadium at Pahokee High School so that they could make COVID-19 vaccines available and more convenient for area residents. This facility was identified by the Florida Division of Emergency Management as a result of a previous vaccination event attended by Governor Ron DeSantis on February 3rd, 2021. Board approval of the Memorandum of Understanding is needed now because the Florida Division of Emergency Management would like to begin providing vaccines to eligible residents of the Glades area immediately. Mr. Superintendent, do you have any items to withdraw?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to withdraw this time.
Board members, we have 1 item that's been pulled from the agenda so far, BRD1. Is there any other items you wish to pull at this time? Which one?
PC9.
PC9? PC9 has also been pulled. Before we approve the agenda, I'd like the board to consider reordering the agenda to move COM1 to the first item of business right after the student government report. COM1 involves the City of Boca Raton's donation of land to the district, and we have the mayor here tonight, so I'd like to get that one at the beginning of the meeting so we can get him back where he's got to be back in the City of Boca. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0 with moving that item up. We now need a motion to approve the entire agenda. Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any disclosures or abstentions? Seeing none, Mr. Superintendent, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're closing in on 1 year since the method by which our district educates students was forever changed by the pandemic. Who can not forget how on March 13th we pivoted on a dime to distance learning for the remainder of the 2020 school year? The challenge of educating our students digitally from the safety of their homes uncovered widespread disparities and presented an opportunity to greatly reduce the digital divide. From a technological perspective, the advances we as a district have made are nothing short of remarkable. We immediately learned that thousands of students didn't have a computer in their home, Wi-Fi, or both. To ensure access to Google Classrooms, we quickly began distributing tens of thousands of computers to students. By this past fall, we achieved a 1-to-1 ratio, student-to-device ratio. To make learning more interactive, the district also installed a smart panel in every single classroom. All of this is just the beginning of this remarkable journey. As I mentioned, the other challenge was providing internet connectivity to students who, for many reasons, did not have access to affordable or free Wi-Fi at home, and so the district's Digital Inclusion Initiative was launched. The goal is to provide all students, regardless of zip code, access to reliable internet access in their homes. This is all part of a 50-square-mile Wi-Fi mesh network that is generated through a partnership between the school district, the county, local municipalities, and James Gavrilos and his team at the Education Foundation. This project is primarily funded through Federal CARES Act dollars and supplemented by donations from our wonderful community partners. Without getting too technical, a Wi-Fi mesh network is created by connecting fiber optic cables to radios, many of which are fastened to tall poles. The radios provide the Wi-Fi signal to users within the municipality. Identified families will be provided a Wi-Fi extender to capture the signal and broadcast the internet connection within their home. Although the Wi-Fi network is not running yet, many installation components are well underway. You may have noticed the poles and radio equipment already being erected in many communities, or maybe you've seen yard signs indicating that a Wi-Fi network is coming soon. Once this phase is complete, about 25,000 district students will have free high-speed internet access at home, and even more as a result of the future phases, I will update you on once that service begins. Speaking of building a brighter future, the cornerstone of postgraduate success is preparing students for the career path that fulfills their dreams. February is Career and Technical Education Month. In our district, CTE is designed to empower today's students by setting them up for success, whether they choose to further their education in traditional college, technical school, through industry certifications, or pursue careers in the military. Thank you to all of the CTE instructors preparing our students to be competitive in a global economy. I'd also say that February is also Love the Bus Month. This annual month-long celebration is held each February. The district's roughly 600 bus drivers are the first to greet our students in the morning and the last to say goodbye in the afternoon. They certainly help set the tone for the child's day. To our drivers, I say thank you for your continued dedication. At this time, if I could have Mr. Oswald come forward, I'd like the Deputy Superintendent to come forward and introduce one of our new principals, Mr. Demetrius Permenter.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy, and good evening, board members. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you a new principal who's taken on a unique role working with our Department of Juvenile Justice, which there are locations throughout Palm Beach County, working with some of our most neediest students, Dr. Demetrius Permenter.
To the board, Chair Boardman Barbarieri, Vice Chairwoman Brill, to Dr. Donna Fenoy, to everyone in their respectful places, thank you. Thank you very much as you allow these nerves to settle just a little bit. I'll begin speaking. My name is Demetrius D'Angelo Permenter. I am the husband of that lovely young lady and young man in the back, Dr. Keisa LaShawn Permenter and Carter Permenter. I am excited to be the principal of alternative education under support services. I don't know if any of you remember back when I was in the PNP pool, we marketed professional growth with growing your own. We are growing our own. I'm a product of us growing our own. And I've been planted in a lot of places in Palm Beach County, but they all work together for my good. I started out as the guidance counselor at Lakeshore Annex in Belglade. Then I was moved over to Pahokee as a guidance counselor with Dr. Reed Bain. Royal Palm Beach High School, Sheila Henry was the principal at the time. As a young man, I was excess, and God knows, I just thought that was the end of the world because I was excess. And then after that, I actually became a part of alternative education where a lot of things were ignited in me, where I saw a lot of young men that looked just like me that needed a cheerleader, needed somebody that would encourage them to be more than what they could see with their natural eye. I then moved into being a member of the courthouse as a court liaison. And then I found myself as a assistant principal at Forest Hill Community High School, which I believe Ms. Ayala is responsible for, and I spent the majority of that time with Mr. Chuck Shaw. And there was the diamond in the rough, because as I said, I was planted in a lot of different places, and what we have to do and what I appreciated is that we grow where we're planted. And I thank God for the opportunity to grow in Palm Beach County for the past 20 years. I'd like to say thank you to a few people, if you'll allow me. I want to say thank you to Ms. Hubbard Williams, my director at Support Services. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to my former principal, Ms. Esther Rivera at Forest Hill Community High School. Also, Ms. Karen Wetzel, the Central Area Instructional Superintendent. And these are the people, I want to name a few people that watered me along the way. We call them mentors, but these people watered me as I was planning. Mr. Eddie Lee Rose, Dr. Lee, Dr. Anthony Lockhart, Dr. Angela Best, Dr. Vancia Haywood, Dr. Reed Bain, Miss Christy Ragsdale, Miss Alma Horn, Miss Ethel Randolph, Miss Kathy Perry, and Miss Vicki Corman. And I want to mention someone right now that I have to say, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, if she watered you, I would probably say no. And that is Dr. Mary Stratos. And Dr. Mary Stratos, I want to say thank you to her for removing my training wheels, because sometimes we think it's supposed to be easy as we're going up this ladder. And not only did she make it tough, you know how when you plant a palm tree in a new establishment, a new home, you have to put the wood planks on it to prevent it from moving. That's what she did with me. She put those wood planks on me, and I heard things that I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. And because of those things, I believe that I grew. But last and definitely not least, my wife and my son. My wife helped me, God knows, with those targeted selection questions. She would not allow me to go to sleep without asking me the star format. And I'm very grateful. I know it might not be the politically correct thing to do, but I just want to say I love you, honey. I thank you. I appreciate you. I thank all of you, and I am going to do my absolute best to present a well-grown tree in this department. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
Just keep remembering who your rock is, sir, and you'll be all right.
Board member comments, Ms. McQuinn?
Yes, thank you. We are still in February. Seems like a very short and a very long month. Certainly I can't speak to, in terms of Black History Month, I cannot speak to the experience of being Black, but I do want to tell you something that I've learned that I hope I can pass on to others, being of I was explained to in a training that I had recently, a racial equity training, not here, it was through Families First, but saying that sometimes, like myself, I bristle at the term white privilege because I didn't grow up privileged, but I certainly grew up advantaged. And so I've learned that there is another term that I think every one of us who is white can agree that we have the advantage of a skin color here in the United States. But another thing is I was invited recently, and in fact I will be sworn in Saturday, to a national organization, not as a school board member, but as an individual. I would never, 6 months ago, have thought to look at the organization first and number one, what is the diversity of the organization? I was happy with that. And the other was, does the organization have a statement regarding LGBTQ? And this organization does, and welcomes the inclusion. So that was something that I know my eyes have been open to in terms of something I wouldn't have known to look at before. So there's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McQuinn. Ms. Ayala?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to give a huge congrats to Dr. Pimenter. I'm so excited for him, and I had the great honor to celebrate with him and the team at Forest Hill on the day when he would be leaving to go on do this great work. Congratulations. I know you're going to make us so proud, Dr. P. Over the last month, I've had the pleasure to visit Pine Jog Elementary, Forest Hill High, Coniston Middle, Benoit Farm Elementary, Everglades Elementary, Hope Centennial Elementary, and my very own school, Palm Springs Elementary. And I want to give a great gratitude to the principals and their teams for opening their doors up to me, welcoming me with open arms, and showing me all of the amazing work that takes place in our schools every single day within District 2. I want to give a special shout out tonight to Everglades Elementary and Principal Ross's team, whose t-shirt design contest winner I'm proudly wearing up here tonight. And it says, "Color Everglades with kindness." So on National Random Acts of Kindness Day and every day, Everglades Elementary is coloring their school with kindness under Principal Ross's amazing leadership. Yesterday, we celebrated 100 days of learning. It was a treat for me to be able to come together with local elected female friends and colleagues, community leaders, organizations, and others to various sponsor treats for our elementary schools yesterday. 7 District 2 schools were included. I visited 5 and had help for the other 2. And countywide, it was over 20 schools that we were able to provide with a little treat to just show our appreciation and gratitude for the work that they've done for these last 100 days and 80 to go. Thank you to every single generous sponsor for recognizing the hard work and commitment of our schools. During our Hispanic Education Coalition meeting last Friday, Mrs. Patricia Trejo, Administrative Program Planner for Hispanic and Latino Studies at our district, provided a thorough presentation of the hard work being done to ensure that there are lessons infused with Latino history and culture within all content areas at the elementary level as per state statute. This work is a huge undertaking for anyone to do, and let alone one person, so I wanted to commend Mrs. Trejo in her efforts to help increase cultural competency around, not just during Hispanic Heritage Month, and let her know that we are so proud of her for this work. Finally, I want to congratulate 2 of our very own district superstars here in Palm Beach County. Once again, Mrs. Patricia Trejo and Dr. Patricia Ordonez Feliciano, who were selected to serve as co-facilitators for the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents Linking Latina Leaders Network. Both were chosen from nationwide applicants, hundreds of them, and they are the very first Latinas from our school district to receive the honor of serving in such a capacity at the national level. So let that sink in for a second. What a great way to have Palm Beach County School District represented, as well as the state of Florida. It's a national network. Thank you both for your continuous focus on internal leadership for yourself so that you can be better developed to serve our children better every single day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ayala. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you so much. This has been actually a pretty great month and week for me. On Monday, I went to my very last of my school visits, so I've visited all my schools now. And it's just such a pleasure to be able to see the students and the principals and get to catch up with all of them and see how their year's going. I've also completed 4 of my State of the City addresses with Dr. Robinson attending the Boynton Beach one. So again, thank you for that. We just finished Delray's a couple weeks ago. That was one of my last ones. Lantana, Boynton, and Lake Worth I've had the opportunity to go to. I really loved getting a chance to communicate with the representatives that oversee their cities and get a chance to talk to them and share, the difficulties that schools are going through, kind of prepare them, and then also ask for their assistance in going forward. Having our cities be involved in our schools just means the world to making really great schools. So I'm really glad I was able to do that. And finally, one of the things that I have just been so proud of for this past week, last week, Dr. Fenoy and I were able to do a little meet and greet virtually with the students that participate in the Compass group, the transgender students. They have a kind of a social support group that meets twice a week. And so Dr. Fenoy actually was able to speak to them, hear their stories, which was amazing. They actually put it out to all the GSAs in the county. So we had 39 people on the call. Over 30 of them were actually students that called in on a weeknight at 5:30 on this virtual call just because they were so excited to get a chance to tell their story to the superintendent. It was truly a historic moment for our school district. I think, it opened up a lot of eyes, and really it was amazing, just the terminology. I know Dr. Fenoy got to learn a whole lot of new words, which was really interesting and exciting for us to be able to do. It's something we're going to try to continue to do, and so I'm looking forward to that continuing on, the additional ability for us to have communication with our LGBTQA and I students. Thank you so much for attending and being a part of that, Dr. Fenoy. It really meant a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. Mrs. Andrews?
And thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. As we continue to celebrate Black History Month, I would like to celebrate Coach Eddie Lee Rhodes. I just heard his name called by the new principal. A Pahokee hero, an educational legend for over 50 years, a teacher, administrator, mentor, and historic coach for Pahokee High School Blue Devils. He is an icon in the Glades region. Everyone knows Coach Rhodes. On yesterday, Coach Rhodes was honored in high fashion with the renaming at grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony of the new Eddie L. Rhodes Pahokee Gymnasium. Many dignitaries from the Tri-Cities region, the county, the state, they were all present for this big honor. We heard special reflections from his student, NFL Hall of Fame star Ricky Jackson. Students, adults, and the entire community will enjoy the beautiful new Eddie L. Rhodes Gymnasium. So as we celebrate Black History Month, which we should celebrate every day because there's no history without Black history, we celebrate one of our local leaders, Eddie Lee Rhodes. I also want to say congratulations for 2 schools who are increasing the number of women in STEM. Congratulations to Park Vista Community High School and Pahokee Middle Senior High School for earning the College Board's AP Computer Science Principals Female Diversity Award. This honor is one way for schools to celebrate and be recognized for their commitment for increasing the participation of female students in science-related fields. Pahokee, Middle Senior High School, Park Vista, Community High School, you're awesome. And lastly, I want to congratulate the city of Westlake, the newest city in the county of Palm Beach, Westlake, sitting right in the heart of District 6. You're to be commended for starting your new educational youth advisory committee. Your first inaugural meeting in January was a great success, and we know that you will be partner and a participant with the School District of Palm Beach County as we work on the best success for all of the students in the Loxahatchee, Acreage, and Westlake area. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. It's February Black History Month. I will not be giving a Black History fact in February, but I will, starting again next month, and I will move my data presentations to my discussion items in the end. So just get ready. And I actually wasn't going to make any comments, but I was inspired by Dr. Permenter's testimony, right? And his acknowledgement of those that, as he put it, watered him where he was planted. And so reminded me that I am truly looking forward to us resuming our summer internship program next year so we can water some young people as they grow in the fields of their choice. Now, just relative to Black History Month, though, I do feel the need to quote James Baldwin, who I hope you know this author, who was once described as saying his education in the American public school system is wanting because, quote, history has been taught without cognizance of my presence. And so what he was saying is what I've been saying and what others have been saying is that the African diaspora is not appropriately represented in our curriculum. And so then I would just roll into thanking both Diana Fetterman and Nolan Rowell for their much improved textbook adoption process, which included a rubric that was created by the Coalition for Black Student Achievement to address that absence of the African diaspora in our representation in our textbooks. So we have textbooks we are adopting tonight. And I think that we are making a move in the right direction. We still have miles to go before we sleep, as they say. But I do want to acknowledge this step forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Ms. Brill?
Thank you. So I've discovered over the last few weeks since I moved my seat to this end of the dais that sometimes when it gets to me, what I was going to talk about has already been mentioned. So there is a distinct disadvantage. I do want to thank Mrs. Andrews for talking about women in STEM. I was going to speak about that. So instead, I'm going to shift to something else. At the last board meeting, while we were here, I received notification that I was chosen for the 2021 Council of Great City Schools Board Cohort group. And so I'm one of 18 school board members, and I had to pivot really quick because they had us scheduled for 2 incredibly intense meetings this past Friday and Saturday. They were till 8 o'clock at night. And for those of you who remember what encounter groups were like, that's what it felt like. It was incredibly intense, but I'm looking forward to it because in these 9 months, we are going to be intensely working on how to improve student outcomes, and it will help me to hone my leadership skills. So as appropriate, I will share with you information that I gain. And then finally, I do want to recognize somebody who I received an email about this afternoon, and that is Amanda Ladd, who has been chosen to receive the 2020 Gutterman Family Outstanding Holocaust Educator Award from the Arthur and Emily Gutterman Family Center for Holocaust and Human Rights Education at FAU. Every year they have a dinner. I don't know if they'll be able to do the dinner this year, but they are going to try to do it in the fall, which hopefully, by that point we will be able to all be face to face. But Ms. Ladd will be honored along with the winners from Broward and Palm Beach counties at that event. And just because I haven't mentioned it yet, Ms. Ladd is a teacher at Eagles Landing Middle School. So it's Mr. Barbieri's school. I did ask him if he would mind if I jumped right into his district, and I just want to say congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman Brill. Board members, my report is attached. I do want to tell you that I had the opportunity today to visit a school in Ms. McQuinn's district. I went to Dwyer High School, and I saw some interesting things there, including some of the shortcomings that those students face. And I've had conversations today with the chief of staff, the superintendent, Mrs. Paul, I'm trying to remember, the deputy superintendent, for some action that should be taken at that school to help the children there that are not performing as well as we could hope, and giving them the resources that they need to make sure that they can move on the way we'd want them to. The other thing that I need to do at this point is also do the recognition of our employees who have passed away. If I can get there. Janice Anita, teacher, high school reading, Royal Palm Beach High School. She was born in 1963 and she died in January 2021. James Senecola, a teacher, elementary 4 at Manatee Elementary. He was born in 1985, died in January 2021. James Wally, coordinator 2, facilities management, maintenance and plant operations. He was born in 1960. He died in December 2020. And Todd Wright, a teacher, ESE, Palm Beach Lakes High School. He was born in 1966 and he died in 2020. If we could take a moment to remember these employees and their families. Thank you. At this time, is County PTA President, County Student Government President Alvarez on the line?
I am. Can everyone hear me okay?
It's all yours, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone has had a productive month. Throughout this past month, the County Council has continued our work to keep students and teachers engaged and motivated. Student governments across the county are continuing to plan school and community-based projects. We have done motivational posters and quotes around the schools, specifically a lot for sports teams, teacher and counselor appreciation letters, hygiene drives, and fun lunches. Additionally, in preparation for Valentine's Day, student governments across the county held Valentine's Day activities following CDC guidelines, sold flowers across the county, held Valentine's Day activities, and kind of just tried to make it special while still being able to follow the rules. Additionally, to remember and honor the lives of the 17 we tragically lost 3 years ago, many schools around the district held virtual memorials. Our student governments also all participated in the District 5 Rally Convention, in which student governments across Palm Beach County, St. Lucie County, and Martin County share project ideas and run for elected positions. Schools presented amazing school and community service projects and ran for positions. I am proud to say that Boca High ran for and won the positions of president and parliamentarian. Additionally, student leaders have continued to keep all our students informed on school-run social media accounts. They have been providing up-to-date information about school events, sports, and college and career information. The senior class executive boards are continuing to plan and organize special events for the last semester of our high school years. Furthermore, I have continued to work and flesh out the ideas for the student committee I proposed. As you all already know, the student committee, as I have proposed it, will be a student-run and selected committee. The president of each school would be the representative for their school and the student representative to the school board as the chair. Additionally, I have thought about the idea of allowing for the student committee to designate and create ad hoc committees within the committee to include specific points that Ms. Ayala had made at the last meeting, and that way we can encompass everyone's idea into making this committee as successful as possible. These ad hoc committees would work on specific issues and can include other students from schools who wish to involve themselves. I will continue to perfect this proposal and idea and look forward to working with Superintendent Vanoy in the creation of this committee. I also wanted to say happy Black History Month, and as Ms. Andrews said, well, our history isn't history without Black history. As always, I would like to thank everyone on this board for your efforts to better our education opportunities and for making our students your first priority. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Alvarez. Mr. Superintendent, that COM1.
Yes, sir. COM1. I recommend the board proclaim February the 17th, 2021 as a day to acknowledge the Boca Raton City Council.
Motion by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Under discussion, I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas the School Board of Palm Beach County, Florida wishes to issue this proclamation and recognize the Boca Raton City Council for its long-standing partnership with the school board, as recently demonstrated by the dedication of a school site, and whereas neighborhood transitions in Boca Raton resulting in the influx of increased school-age children, along with growth in the unincorporated western Boca Raton and Delray areas, have resulted in the need for a new school in southern Palm Beach County, currently identified as Boca Raton Area Elementary 05C, and whereas the City of Boca Raton has generously dedicated plus or minus 15 acres of publicly owned land in the Countess d'Ornley Park to facilitate construction of the new school within Boca Raton proper, and whereas in the interest of government efficiency, the property has been used as a temporary campus for both Verde Elementary and then Addison Meisner Elementary while their respective schools were being modernized, and whereas the new school construction will begin as soon as Addison Meisner Elementary vacates the temporary campus at the end of the 2021 school year, and whereas construction is expected to take slightly more than 1 year with an opening date of August 22 for the new elementary school, and whereas the dedication of a school site will facilitate the establishment of another world-class school within the city limits of Boca Raton, Florida, now therefore be it resolved that the superintendent and school board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim the foregoing recitals are true, correct, and incorporated into this proclamation by this reference, and be it further resolved that the school board wishes to honor and recognize the Boca Raton City Council for its contributions to the school district, including this dedication of a school site, and for many years of partnership with the school board to provide world-class schools in the city of Boca Raton. Done this 17th day of February 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Board members, if you don't mind, Mayor Singer is here. If we could go down and get a photo with Mayor Singer. Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, that's fine. Does he want to say a few words?
Mayor Singer will be our first speaker. Mayor Singer.
Mr. Chairman, school board members, Dr. Fenoy, thank you so much for having me here today. While as much as I appreciate on behalf of the city your thanks of us, I really came here to extend our thanks to you because this has been a 3-year plus partnership in getting this across the finish line. First, I'm here on behalf of all my city council colleagues who could not join us today, Deputy Mayor Andrea Levine O'Rourke, council members Yvette Drucker, Monica Mayotte, Andy Thompson, and Councilmember Jeremy Rogers, who's on military leave serving overseas. I'm blessed to work with that great team every single day, and we're blessed to have great partners in the school district. And this is just the latest of more and more partnerships we've had with you over the last few years. Mr. Chairman, when you and I first talked about this 3 years ago, about the idea for siting the school here because the money was in the budget, but the land that you had originally cited for it over in the southwestern part of the county fell through. I didn't imagine all the work that would go through, but I'm so grateful for all your leadership, Dr. Fenoy, your entire team, and I want to thank a few of you in particular I've had the pleasure to work with and see firsthand about what it took to get this school done. There were many iterations of planning. First, it was just figuring out the temporary site, then getting permission from the state to build it, even though, you know, all of the numbers show that we required it. I had a great opportunity to work time and time again with Ms. Wanda Paul and your entire staff there. So, Ms. Paul, thank you. Just to let people know, there were, even once we got the temporary site set, in theory, there were more iterations, and I think at one point 15 different configurations for just that temporary site. Once we got that up and running, then there was more land, different givebacks of land, different configurations, changing the building envelope, traversing utility easements, drainage issues, lake issues, and yet we worked tirelessly. You all worked tirelessly, your staff, so thank you very much. Chris Garrison, I want to say special thanks to you as well. And I had the pleasure in multiple meetings to work with David Dolan, Michael Burke, and just see how hardworking your staff is, Dr. Fenoy, and school board members. So thank all of you. We're so grateful for what you're doing. This has allowed the rebuilds of those two schools to proceed apace. After the Parkland tragedy, we don't know how we would have done it had we not had a place to locate them. And this temporary site came at the right time, and fortunately in the right place. And I'm grateful that with everything going on, those modernizations are on schedule, that this rebuild or this new permanent construction is on schedule, and just a huge words of thanks for what you're doing every single day to keep our students educated and in the classrooms. When we look across the country and see other districts who can't come close to what you're able to pull off every single day, it's a testament to how hard you work as administrators, educators, staff people, and people who care about our students. So thank you for what you do every single day, and we're very grateful for our continued partnership.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for taking the time to come up here this evening.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Shaw. Is Mr. Shaw here? Mr. Shaw, this is a first for us. I'm sure it's a first for you.
It seems very strange after all these years to be over on this side of the room, but watching. But thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. Last month, when you made the decision of renaming the Adult Education Center, you know how difficult that was for me to even begin to accept something like that and understand, because it's never about me. It's about the people that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years. And other than saying thank you, I do think it's important to know that there were some things that have been done by our adult education staff over the years that are extremely significant in this district. Virtual education in Palm Beach County started with adult education. Roger Pelser, who was the manager of adult ed, came to my office one morning and he said, I've got an idea, let's see what we can do with, and it was to create the first online classes in Palm Beach County. We did that with no money, but just the idea that it's something we could do. And it turned into what's now Palm Beach Virtual. Over the years, our adult education programs have partnered with the Workforce Alliance, Career Source, the Business Development Board, PACE, many, many other agencies and organizations to support the education of our adults. One of the programs that was extremely successful was with the Guatemalan community in Lake Worth, where we provided teachers who worked in that community with the people in the Guatemalan Center to provide programs for those students in a language that was very difficult for us as a school district to provide people who could, who were in a position to be able to speak that language. In addition, we created one of the programs that was called PAC Time, Parent and Child Together. This was an effort that was created by the creativity of some of our adult education staff who spent their time at a school working with parents for a period of time up to a half day, then breaking, and their children who were in childcare at the same time, The parents and the children then worked together. The parents were given instruction and support on how they could work with their children. That became a model that was used statewide. All of those things happened not because of anything that I did, but it was by us giving those adult education leaders and instructors the opportunity to be creative, to take risk, and do challenging things for the benefit of our community. I hope that as adult education continues to grow in this county, that we see the real opportunity for it to serve this district and to be able to come to this board with more and more really creative, really challenging programs that can help our adults learn to speak English, to be prepared for a career, to offer programs that are not available in many other parts, and do it at a cost that's tremendously less than what they would be paying in some of the career technical programs in the private sector. So again, thank you so much. It was an honor. Please take time when you have to go visit the Adult Ed Center, because it is a wonderful facility. And the good thing was there had about an on-site enrollment of about 900 students out of the 2,500 that they have enrolled. So thank you again so very much.
Mr. Shaw, the board is pleased that we were able to name that building after you for recognizing the 50-plus years of service that you gave not only to the children but to the adults of Palm Beach County. So we're happy that we could create a legacy for you that will last all of our lifetimes. So
Thank you
for
very
coming
much.
this evening.
Have a good night and good luck.
President Gavrilos, our Education Foundation.
Thank you, Chairman Barbieri, Dr. Fenoy, and members of the school board. It's a great set for what I wanted to discuss tonight. Teachers are an interesting group, teachers and principals. They offer high-quality education to their kids, but it's just not about that moment, that program. It's the legacy that they leave. We honored the Principals of the Year last week, and you see the pride the principals take when they see their students going on to greater success. I say that to set the table for March when we hold our annual Distinguished Alumni Award. Now, it's the same group that we were going to honor last year, and coronavirus had other ideas, so we've moved it to this year. We will be honoring two graduates of our Palm Beach County Public Schools who have gone on to great success. Zach Gottsagen, an incredible young man, a graduate of the Dreyfus School of the Arts, who starred in that film, The Peanut Butter Falcon, was also a presenter at the Academy Awards last year. And also Brian Ray, who's the CEO of Garden of Life Supplements. And I use this as an illustration of my earlier point. We were in some meeting, many of you knew Artie Falk. Artie was an administrator and assistant principal, I think, for about 173 years at Palm Beach Gardens, something like that. And anytime something comes up and we mention, Senator Bobby Powell one day, and Artie, he's one of mine. We were in a setting talking about the Distinguished Alumni Awards, and I mentioned Brian Ray. He's one of mine. He's a Palm Beach Gardens guy. Dr. Fenoy, your teachers and principals love these children so much, and they take so much pride in their success later in life when they go on and become these amazing community people. So on March 10th at 11:30, we will have a virtual event where we will honor both these two graduates of our schools as well as Mr. Alexander Dreyfus as our Business Leader of the Year. And I encourage anyone who would like to participate virtually to go to our website, and you can register for that event, and I'll pay our respects that day to these three incredible people. Again, that's on March 10th. We have to prepare our people for success in life, and so tonight, the good news report that I get to share, we have entered into a partnership and received a grant from the Florida Lottery. No, Frank, I did not win the $1 billion last week. I was just 6 numbers off, but I was close. But we have entered into an agreement with the Florida Lottery for a new program. Ms. Andrews, this one's for you. We are calling it the Raiders Rock the Preparation. It is a program for roughly 400 young people at Glades Central High School. These are 11th and 12th graders, many of whom are going to be first-generation high school graduates, where they will be prepped for the ACT and the SATs. They'll be given special tutorials, they'll be given special methodologies to learn, again, high-quality instruction to help them prepare for their college exams. Those students who attend 80% of the sessions and can demonstrate measurable increases in their test scores will have their SAT fees waived. So this is an incredible opportunity for these young people at Glade Central to not only get prepared to take the SAT, but also then actually take the SAT in a way that won't bring economic hardship on their families. So this is what we do. We prepare our kids for college and life. We rejoice when they have success in life. And Dr. Fenoy, your Education Foundation is honored to be a partner with you and just to be there and to support these programs that are doing such great work. Ladies and gentlemen, we are your Education Foundation, supporting the high quality work of our teachers, schools, and principals in the finest school district in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. President Katz, CTA.
Thank you. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Classroom Teachers Association. I reached out to everyone, the board and district leadership, to make sure that we begin discussions and subsequently negotiations regarding instructional and working conditions for employees and students next year as soon as possible. I think if there was a lesson to be learned last year is that communicating more than you think you need to cannot possibly hurt you, and that's where we're at. The reason being, the existing blended learning MOU that governs distance learning and blended learning this year expires on June 30th of 2021. It will no longer exist. The district will have no contractual ability to conduct distance learning or blended learning at that point. So we need to reach out as soon as possible to begin this dialogue. Ideally for me and my teachers, these discussions and negotiations over a new MOU would conclude by the end of this school year so that they know what to expect before they go into the summer break and before they come back. There are some variables that we might not know until much later in this school year. We don't know what the legislature is going to do. We don't know what the governor or the commissioner of education are going to do, but we do know a lot about what we can start to prepare for. Your educators, almost 13,000 of them, by the end of this school year will have worked 20 million contract hours under these current conditions. Their opinions are critical to informing the next version of the MOU and distance learning and whatever blended learning version comes to bear in 2021, 2022. The most pressing concern that they have, and I'm sure most people could guess this, is simultaneous teaching does not work for the majority of students or the majority of teachers. So it is not serving either party. We need to do everything we can, and any future MOU regarding blended learning needs to address the fact that virtual students need to be clustered into virtual class periods, and physical students need to be clustered into physical class periods. It will make all the sense in the world for anybody who's seen this work to segregate these groups, to make it easier for the teacher to do their job, to make it easier for the students to learn. As president of the CTA, that is something that I can't stress enough. The master boards cannot be created absent consideration of what I just said. It's something that last year, once the master boards were made, the principals had a valid concern to gut the master boards. Would have been very difficult for them. It is February. We can plan for this. There will be no need to gut master boards because we can create them the way that they need to be created. While simultaneous instruction might be the most pressing concern for educators in terms of their working conditions, there are many other concerns relative to the existing MOU and other responsibilities that came along with it. We talked about during the calendar discussions the value of an extra week of summer to mental health for students and teachers, and I don't think you can necessarily quantify a week, but I can definitively say that 180 days of instruction and the learning and working conditions that take place far exceed 1 week of summer in terms of their effect on the mental health of our students and our teachers. So we need to do this right. And again, simultaneous instruction, it simply needs to become the exception to the rule. The rule needs to be to separate these students, and if it can't be done in certain circumstances, then we deal with simultaneous. But again, that's my biggest concern, and that's one of the reasons why I want to start these discussions as soon as possible So please make sure that the district, the superintendent, reach out to us so that we can get this going. I think it'll do a lot, not just for your employees and students, but the community, to know what to expect as best as we can expect it given the variables that we know. So thank you all very much for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you, President Katz. President Laura Feldman, PTA, PTSA for the county. It's recorded.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, school board members, and Dr. Fenoy and staff. My name is Laura Feldman, and I'm honored to speak with you tonight as the president of Palm Beach County Council of PTAs, PTSAs. This month, I had the opportunity to share information with the Academic Advisory Committee from Florida PTAs and the Florida Department of Education's Know Your Schools campaign, also known as From Reports to Results. Through the review of the data and information in the edudata.fldoe.org website, we are better able to understand the state of our district and schools and to focus our advocacy on helping all students meet their potential. In other PTA news, last week we enjoyed County Council's virtual celebration for the Reflections Art Program. We loved seeing the enthusiastic students and their wonderful art, dance, music, and poetry submissions. Thank you all for putting in the time and effort to participate in this program. We are continuing our Letters of Love campaign. This is a fantastic opportunity for students to write letters to help the elderly living in more isolated settings feel more connected. Through this project, students can earn community service hours for the letters they write. For more information, please contact Sharon Lubin, wellness.pbccpta@gmail.com. On February 20th, Florida PTA will be hosting their Howdy PTA Today Leadership Summit. This exciting opportunity is for everyone to enjoy learning more about topics such as virtual engagement, virtual meetings, tips and tricks, VPKs in early childhood, the Baker Act, PTA 101, and information for presidents, treasurers, secretaries, and much, much more. Also, please join County Council for our upcoming COVID-safe scavenger hunt to celebrate PTA's founders. For more information, please check out Palm Beach County Council of PTA's Facebook page. There's also still time to register for Florida PTA's Virtual Legislative Conference, March 21st and 22nd. This year, the event will be held virtually and has a very low registration fee. For more information and to register, please go to Florida PTA's website. Thank you all for your time.
Board members, before we start the committee reports, I direct your attention to the cupcake on the table there to my left and the beautiful lady sitting behind it, that our board clerk, Carol Bass, will be celebrating her birthday this week. So happy birthday, Carol. Our committee reports, the Academic Advisory Committee report is recorded, and our lobbyists are on the line. So let's go with the Academic Advisory Committee report. Please play the recording. No,
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, school board members, Dr. Fenoy, and staff. My name is Laura Feldman, and I am honored to speak with you tonight as the chair of the Academic Advisory Committee. During our February meeting, we heard updates regarding the Student Academic Support Plan, as well as more specifics regarding the outreach, interventions, and professional development efforts. It was emphasized that the interventions are being put in place for all students who need the interventions, whether they attend school face-to-face or virtually. We also discussed the phases of the Academic Support Plan. This month's presentation during our meeting was From Reports to Results and was given by the Palm Beach County Council of PTAs, PTSAs. During the presentation, we reviewed the data in Florida Department of Education's website, edudata.fldoe.org, and safeschoolsforalex.org. We learned through these sites, through the information in these sites, we learned that we can better understand the state of our district and individual schools. Our discussions focused on the education gaps, graduation rates, specifically the gaps based on race and ethnicity, as well as for foster kids, discipline disparities based on race and ethnicity, the out-of-school suspension rate for students with 504 plans, the disproportionate enrollment of students in the ESC program, or students who have 504 plans based on race and ethnicity, meaning that the disproportional enrollment is based on race and ethnicity. Professional development and the information on the safeschools4alex.org website, which lists the schools with the most suspensions in the state. The information from this presentation and these websites brought up many questions which we plan to discuss in future meetings. Thank you for your time.
Mr. LaFace, are you on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Go ahead, if you'd like to go ahead and give your report to the board, that'd be great.
Yeah, certainly. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Fenoy, Ron LaFace with Capital City Consulting. I appreciate you allowing me to participate in the board meeting today to give you a legislative update. As you are aware, on Monday, we did record a comprehensive legislative update for the executive cabinet that I know was distributed to board members, I believe, yesterday. So I won't rehash all of the details of the items that we covered in the recorded legislative update, but I would like to add a couple of somewhat supplemental details or updates to our Monday report. First of all, Senate Bill 48, which is the expansive voucher bill that was discussed on Monday, just passed the Senate Education Appropriations Committee about 30 minutes ago by a vote of 6-3. The bill is intact as described on Monday and continues to have all of the components, including the education savings accounts and the various ways to spend what would be considered the voucher funds using a debit card on the allowed expenses. There were two amendments offered by members of the Democratic Party, the minority party on the committee. The first amendment would require annual audits of the scholarship funding organization, which currently is Step Up for Students. Right now, annual audits are required, but the bill moves the audits to every 3 years, as well as an amendment that would lower the income eligibility in order to be eligible to receive a empowerment scholarship or voucher. Both of those amendments failed, and so as I mentioned, the bill is continuing to move into its third and final committee in the Senate, and we do continue to have concerns with the bill, both for a lack of accountability on how the funds will be spent to educate children who are eligible and receive a scholarship, as well as accountability on how their learning is progressing outside of the school district. To date, a House bill has not yet been filed on this issue, but there is one currently in the works, and so we expect to see that in the coming weeks. Another update is that all three of our legislative appropriations requests have been filed as House bills in the House, as well as the Senate forms have been filed. So the West Tech appropriation request is House Bill 2873. The Roosevelt appropriation request is House Bill 2449. And the post-COVID acceleration request is House Bill 2477. So with those filed, we're now working to have them heard on the House side in a committee so that they're eligible for the House budget. Finally, I did want to give an update on language that we were directed by the board to pursue this session that would authorize virtual meetings for board advisory councils. Which is something that, has been a continual issue in Palm Beach County as well as other places. But we have drafted language that would allow for these advisory councils to meet virtually. And we have lobbied both the House and Senate education leadership on the issue. We have received very favorable responses. Nobody seems to have an issue with the item, and both chambers have agreed to pursue it and include it in some legislative packages that they're working on that will have other education items in them. So that language is moving as best as we could hope at this point, and so we will continue to pursue that language and hope to get it enacted. And finally, I don't know if Superintendent Fenoy mentioned this to you yet or was planning to do in a later report, but he will be testifying tomorrow in the House Education Appropriations Committee related to how Palm Beach has responded to COVID additional expenses, as well as attempting to find law students that the district has not been able to locate at this point. And we look forward to his presentation. We've had a few conversations about what he plans to cover, and Mr. Burke has been very helpful in helping to provide us with some numbers that we're going to present to the committee on future anticipated COVID expenses using some of the additional federal funds that will be coming down. But we are excited with his participation up here in Tallahassee virtually. So with that, I kind of would like to, take it at the will of the board, how you would like to proceed, Mr. Chairman. If anybody has any questions about what I just covered, or any questions about the items that I covered in the recorded report from Monday, or any other issues or directions, I leave it open to you for however you'd like to proceed at this point.
All right, let's see if the board members have any questions. Ms. Brill, Vice Chairwoman Brill, go ahead.
Thank you. So I guess it's procedural, or maybe just how we're going to move forward with the bills that are out there. One of my concerns is we haven't had a discussion together as a group. I know the district is taking a position against Senate Bill 200, which may not go anywhere, but we haven't talked about it, about where we stand on it or been educated on it. And I get people coming to me from my community about that. The other bills I'm pretty good on. I understand them. But I would like us to have a conversation about it, just so that we know that we're all on the same page about it. Through the chair to the superintendent, do you want to share the position that you have?
Sure. Right now our position, and right now for me specifically as superintendent working with FADS, our position is that we still would like the decisions around student retention to rest with schools, because that's something we do every year, and because of the unintended potential consequences of just mass, retentions. However, I have, and been very thankful that Senator Berman has talked with me and the commissioner, and she has made some adjustments to that bill. And so at this point, I will be speaking as a representative of FADS, but I think the board's, the staff's decision or position is that we would like to leave it as is, because this is something that is individualized based on the schools, and they can prepare for those things.
If I may just follow up on that, and the only concern that I have, or one of the concerns that I have, is that initially the district was saying that we have a process in place for retaining students, which alludes to because the bill states that it would be parent choice just for this year for a student, and I'm not saying I agree with retention, but for a student between the beginning school years through middle school, the parent can request retention. The process that we have is basically, if a parent comes to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, if a parent comes to us, wants their student retained, and the student is meeting the requirements of the pupil progression plan, they're just denied the opportunity. So I'm hoping that whether this bill goes forward or not, we as a district can re-examine. I know we have a pupil progression plan, but I think that this year in particular, we need to look at mental health. We need to look at other factors. So if a parent does come to us, that we give them an honest opportunity to express their concerns, because there are pros and cons, and I won't express how I feel because it might surprise you. I'm not, but because I have seen the pros and cons, having had one of my children retained. But I do think that we need to be open-minded regardless of what happens with this bill.
Yes, ma'am. What I'll commit to doing is I will have Deputy Superintendent and his team share with me our current processes, and then I will, as I speak to you on one-on-ones, we will talk through that. But let me get updated on our current processes and see if there's any areas for improvement. I'll be willing to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. LaFace from the board? Thank you, Mr. LaFace. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, and thank you, board members.
Agenda topic speakers, we have none. That takes us to the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items you wish to pull that haven't already been pulled? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. New business, BRD 1, Master Board participation.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board participate in the Florida School Boards Association Master Board Program for 2021-2022.
Motion by Mrs. McQuinn, seconded by Ms. Brill. Mrs. McQuinn, I know you pulled that one. Go ahead.
Yes, I certainly am in favor of us participating in Master Board training. However, I would like to suggest that we defer this for a year simply because of time constraints. We know how Mrs. Bass has worked to get our calendars just for the next racial equity trainings. And we also have workshops at least being scheduled, if not already scheduled, for strategic planning. And then high on our list, of course, are workshops looking at the direction we're going to give the superintendent about future school year calendars. And now, of course, Ms. Brill has a further time constraint that she has, that she shared with us. So simply in terms of right now, our priorities, I'd like to suggest that we defer that for the following school year.
Thank you, Ms. Ayala. Ms. Ayala, you're next.
Thank you. I would like to echo that sentiment simply because I feel we have a lot on our plate right now. There's a lot of heavy topic items that are coming down that require our focus. And me personally, as I do maintain a full-time employment outside of my duties as a board member, on top of me having the time to focus on our strategic planning, on making sure that the schools in District 2 have everything they need, focusing on how we're going to discuss the superintendent's reorganization, focusing on all of the things that are taking place. This is something that we desperately need, and I really want to participate, but I want to be able to give it the full attention it deserves. And I personally feel it would be better served if we delayed to the time when that is more open in our schedules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews.
And thank you. And we certainly need this training. We're behind as it relates to bringing on new board members over the last few years. We probably should have had this training, but we are in a pandemic right now. And with all the things we're trying to do with our strategic plan, trying to get our schedule set for equity, just so much is going on. When I looked at the Master Board, the deadline for getting the approval to do this is just next month. And you have to be committed. If you are not committed as a board, you lose your money once you start this process. And it sounds like our schedules are going to be very tight this year. I just want to remind everybody, we really do need to get this Master Board training. If we decide not to go with it for this year, let's make it a priority for the next school year, because it's something that we're already behind on.
Vice Chairwoman Brill.
Thank you. So I concur with my colleagues. In fact, I think that we should wait for the next opportunity for Master Board, as Mrs. Andrews said, especially because after we get through the equity training, we're also going to be going into our strategic planning. So we really need to be focused on that. I think it's a great idea, but I too would agree that we need to wait.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I'm fine with putting off the Master Board training. I think that it's definitely a valuable endeavor, and we should take it on next year. But I would like to ask if we could still consider having a retreat either this summer or early fall, because I do think it's really good for us to have those opportunities as a board to speak. And I think Master Board training was going to be part of that, an opportunity for us to talk as a board. But if we could plan a retreat at some point in the summer or early fall, I think we could, continue some of that momentum we got at our last meeting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other board members? So I agree, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I know we put that on the agenda at the board's request, and then all this other stuff started coming up, including the board's agreement that we wanted to have more meetings during the Wednesday. So hate to give you a no on a recommendation, but you put it on for us because we asked you to. So we'll take a vote, but it looks like it's going to be a no. All in favor of the motion to go forward with Master Board training? Opposed? The motion fails 7-0. Pardon me? 0-7. Did you say Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, I'm just in a technicality. Whoever made the motion has to vote for it, don't they?
I don't believe.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Ms. McQuinn, looks like you have to vote for it.
Yeah, I remembered that. Okay, fine. We know I only
I can
voted to
withdraw
get
it.
it on the table, but that's fine.
I'll
Let's
go ahead
just
and withdraw
follow
it.
the
Let me
rules.
withdraw it. so that-
Superintendent's withdrawing it.
Yeah,
so
I'll
that
withdraw it.
Won't go forward with any vote.
Yeah, I won't do that to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for taking Mrs. McQuinn out of a very difficult situation. Next item is Seal M2.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim February 2021 as Career and Technical Education Month.
Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Mrs. Andrews, you wanted to read that?
Yes, thank you. Proclamation, Career and Technical Education Month, February 2021. Whereas February 1st through 28, 2021 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education. And whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. And whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase student engagement and achievement. And whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework, as well as pursuit of established programs of study and career pathways. Whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas ensuring that employers have access to qualified workforce is a critical step in ensuring productivity among the business industry, communities, as well as continued American economic growth and global competitiveness. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the superintendent and the school board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Career and Technical Education Month. And be it further resolved that the superintendent and the school board urge all citizens to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by career and technical education programs in this community and to support and participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and productivity. Done this 17th day of February 2021 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Frank A. Barbieri, Jr., Esquire, Board Chair. Dr. Donald E. Fenoy, II, Superintendent.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. P2, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. P3.
P3, I recommend the board approve the job description as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Vice Chairwoman Brill. Any discussion? Mrs. McQuinn? Was that just a late yes?
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I so apologize. No, I don't have any
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. PC9.
Yes, sir. PC9, I recommend the board approve the First Amendment to the contract with State Contracting and Engineering Corporation for West Technical Education Center and authorize the superintendent and board chair to finalize and sign all necessary documents.
I know Mrs. Andrews wants to make that motion. Is there a second? Ms. Ayala? Any discussion?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you so very much. I'm so happy tonight. I'm happy to see this on the agenda for West Tech, the construction of West Tech. And I have just so many people to thank. And first, I want to thank the taxpayers of Palm Beach County for the penny sales tax. Your tax dollars are at work for West Technical Education Center. We are celebrating Career and Technical Education Month right now. And when I see what you have done, community, for passing the sales tax, the penny sales tax, you're helping for us to make sure our students and adults receive the training necessary. And the second big thanks, I want to thank this board I have. You all are superstars, because I'm hoping that you're going to pass this today so that we can move on with the construction for West Tech. It's an old building. We have so much work to do. So many adults and children are there right now, and they're looking forward to better air conditioning, the roof, the painting, the classrooms. Everything's going to be redone so that they will enjoy their experiences as they work through getting their careers ready for their lives, adults as well as students. And then Ms. Wanda Paul and Mr. Dave Dolan, you all know me well as we talk about West Tech every time we pick up the phone. You all have been working on this for the community and making it happen. We are here tonight for this vote. And the Glades Career Readiness Roundtable, you've been working hard since West Tech was closed for almost 11 years with no technical programs in the sense for the Glades region. You came and you said, we're going to make it happen, Ms. Andrews, and we're going to open West Tech back up. And the Glades Career Readiness Roundtable has been meeting since 2012, once a month, working hard with the legislature, raising funds to get West Tech back to where we need it to be. And I'm just so thankful for the boys and girls who are now attending West Tech, all the community people who are there at night, taking up HVAC, electrical, welding, carpentry, just health care. All of these different occupations they're learning and growing and developing. So board members, I'm hoping that I just pulled this to say thank you, and it's going to pass in the next minute or two. Thank you so much. So excited tonight.
Ms. Ayala?
Congratulations to our Glades community, to Ms. Andrews for all the work I know you've done on this, to our whole team. And I also wanted to say, I think he left now, but to Mr. Shaw, I had the opportunity this week to visit the beautiful new adult education center, now known as the Chuck Shaw Technical Education Center. And it is a state-of-the-art modern facility that is so needed throughout our community. And I couldn't be prouder to see that model taking place somewhere else where it's so needed too. My own mom has participated in programs offered by this center many years back in CDL, in healthcare learning, and in ESOL classes. So the benefits of this cannot be overstated. And I'm just so excited and grateful to see this work moving forward, and congratulations to our Glades community for this.
Thank you, Ms. Ayala. And I want to just take a moment to thank Mrs. Andrews. The people they just don't know what a gem they have with you out there. I mean, there's nobody in this district that's ever fought harder for the children in the western area than you, Mrs. Andrews. So congratulations to you for finally getting this done. You certainly deserve a lot of praise for your hard work and tenacity and driving out there. I mean, it's out there almost every day of the week you're out there. So thank you for your hard work for the children in that area. Go ahead.
I just don't want to leave anybody out. I forgot to say the Tri-Cities Education Committee, the 3 mayors, just everybody in the Glades region. They're so excited tonight. They're looking at this, and they're excited for this progressive school board that we have here and all the work you've done to get West Tech back on track. So it's a true blessing for us here in Palm Beach County that we're moving to make sure that no one's left behind. Our children, our adults, that they get the skills necessary for success in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. And what is so beautiful about this for me is to see the community come together to benefit their young people. And Mrs. Andrews, I also thank you for your leadership on this. You're a role model, and yeah, so Wanda Paul and Dave Dolan, I'll be calling them just the way you've been calling them. Thank you.
You've been forewarned. All right, all those in favor?
I think that's already started, Dr. Robinson. I think you've already started calling us Dr. Robinson regularly. I said I think you've already started calling us regularly like Ms. Andrews does.
I thought she was already doing that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I believe the next one's PIR 1, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. This is a very important one. I recommend the board approve the memorandum of understanding with the Florida Division of Emergency Management for the use of the parking lot and certain indoor facilities of the Anquan Bolden Stadium of Pahokee High School for the COVID-19 vaccination site, and authorize the board chair and the superintendent to sign all necessary documents.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Discussion? Mrs. Andrews?
I just want to take the moment to thank Anquan Bolden, who is awesome in the community to make a difference. And when he recognized the need to have the vaccines in Pahokee, he worked closely with a friend to get to the governor. And thank you, Dr. Fenoy, Mr. Barbieri, and all of you that came out when the governor came to make it happen. But this is all because of community involvement. Anquan Bolden does never forget that he is from Pahokee, and he's going to make sure that Pahokee is never left behind. So I want to definitely thank him for all that he does for academics as well as community leadership and making sure Pahokee is always out front. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
So thank you. So I want to just make note of how important it is that we change our policies and procedures to meet the needs, right? So, and now I need y'all to write this on the wall. I want to thank you, Dr. Fenoy, because he may not even remember this, but Anquan Bolden would have annual events, and each time he would have to go through the whole process of getting the paperwork done. And under Dr. Fenoy, he got it changed so that he has the agreement so that this particular, well, maybe not this one, the previous one, wasn't such an obstacle, that he didn't have to jump through 25 hoops to do something good for the community. I think there's more opportunities for us to look at our policies and practices so we can engage our community that wants to partner with us. But this was a very good example, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Board members, that would take us to agenda items, board discussion items, but we have several people here in the audience who want to speak, so if somebody would like to make a motion to reorder the agenda again to allow the non-agenda speakers to speak. Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Ms. Ayala. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So would the non-agenda speakers come up as I call your names? Bill McGrath, Mark Hopwood, Curtis Sherrod. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Bill McGrath. I'm here on behalf of my children and several other boys that are here from Seminole Ridge High School. I think it's been difficult enough, I think, with COVID for these young men and women over the last year and a half, or their 2 academic years, and athletics was going to bring some normalcy to them. They were looking forward to their senior year playing baseball, and about 2 weeks ago, the high school varsity baseball coach cut 70% of the senior players. I'll let some other of the parents discuss the reasons why, and we're pretty sure that is a unethical and a monetary thing. We know it wasn't a skill issue. So right after that, we ended up posting something on our community, Acreage Speaks, about our dismay of something as this ever happened before with that many seniors, where we get rid of our leadership in our athletics. And within 72 hours, we had 6,000 views and over 400 comments from parents in our community that this happened over the last 10 years by this same coach that have ruined athletics for their boys over that time. I had a meeting with the principal, Dr. Campbell, the athletic director, Mr. Parks, and the assistant athletic director, bringing up these concerns, printing this out, whether to offer to give that to them. They did not want any of those materials. They just said they would conduct their own investigation. So we have multiple parents here today that represent these boys. Since then, 2 more of those seniors have quit in support of these 7 boys. So 90% of the seniors are all gone from the baseball team. It wasn't until really the last couple days that we spoke to Miss Andrews, and we've tried every avenue locally through our principal and athletic director. Once we spoke to our representative, Miss Andrews, and whatever calls were made were fantastic, because we got a call this afternoon from the principal that all of the boys are reinstated onto the baseball team without the approval of the coach. So we understand that that's going to create some issues for the boys and the coach, but they're big boys, they're great young men, never been in trouble, and we anticipate that's going to move forward. We wanted to continue to speak to this board so they understand that these problems have been going on for quite a long time, and we want that investigation to continue to make sure, not only for our boys this year, but for the previous ones that those have affected, and hopefully that doesn't continue over the years, as several of these could have potentially lost some scholarship opportunities, because due to COVID restrictions of recruiting has been very, very difficult, and that was potentially taken away and may still be taken away from these boys. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mark Hopwood.
How you doing, board? Dr. Fenoy. I'm here also to talk for Seminole Ridge. I want to first thank Ms. Andrews, because my first meeting took 3 hours. I got 3 minutes. So some of the stuff I want to go over is just the bullying. I have multiple instances of bullying and proof. None of it was willing to be accepted at my meeting by the principal. Ethics violations included multiple businesses run through the coach's school board email. All of these, I have proof. All the things I have, I'm willing to give someone no one wanted to take. So that's why I have to thank Ms. Andrews, because that's the only voice we got. We had reached out. There's a wall that you cannot break through with this school board. And I don't believe this is what we want to educate our young kids. The thing that for the boys being cut that were mostly starters, it's been a life lesson to understand that as parents, we're going to push forward for them. And the one thing they can see is that if you're right and you continue to fight for this, you will get somewhere. It took us 2 weeks to even get anything investigated. I was promised a call back from ethics department, I've never received any calls back. So at this point, I have a lot of evidence. The news is interested in it. I talked to them outside. I wish, if you'd like to see the evidence, I can show you the emails. I hope, and I'm asking you at this point, to turn this over to the Inspector General so this can truly be looked at. This has happened in the community for 15 years. There's adults. And I was told, don't go to that school. My son wanted to go to his community school. We're proud of our community school. You've got some great principals. I sent my son to another school with Mr. Hatcher, because he ran a school, there was no bullying. We had an issue with that previous. He held accountability. There is no accountability at Seminole Ridge, I feel. And his simple accountability was just, teachers, please check your kids' uniforms in the morning. That school was run amazing. So I just am grateful to be able to present some of this evidence. I hope you have the Inspector General look into this. All my evidence is hard evidence via emails. We have videos, other things of bullying. And I just feel as a parent, we can't break through it. How do you expect a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old to get through this? There needs to be some accountability from the top down in order to come back from the bottom up. There is no accountability. And once again, I said 3 minutes would not be enough. I apologize.
If you could do me a favor, whatever information that you have, could you give it to our deputy superintendent and we'll begin to looking at it. He's right there. He's coming to you right now.
I will happily give it.
Thank
Every
you.
time I've tried to give it, it's been refused because no one wants it. It's hot potato.
You're going to get it right. We're going to get it right now.
You're going to get my emails, and I got about 50 more.
Curtis Sherrod. Thank you, Ms. Prieto, for keeping that podium clean. We appreciate it. If Mr. Sherrod's not here, would the IT please play the recorded announcements, the recorded messages?
Yes, my name is Carl Mohammed, non-agenda speaker for Palm Beach County School Board meeting. Attention, please pay attention. This coming Sunday, we have in the ADOS community, the American Descendants of Slavery community, we have our big sister, Ms. Andrews, Marsha Andrews, who will be speaking to the ADOS community this coming Sunday from 10 to 11. She has taken the courage and the strength to to take a look at the standardized Erica Whitfield test as it relates to some of the questions that are needed for the proficiency inside of the African American community. And we appreciate her, especially during Black History Month, for having such courage. But we also would like to thank Mr. Barbarieri for his attempt and Ms. Brill. And we're hoping that everybody else that continuously talk about equity will consider the idea of having a conversation with the ADOS community, America Descendants of Slavery. This month, Black History Month, was designed to help us to repair ourselves, but it appears that we're not having any conversation coming from any entity inside of Palm Beach County. We would appreciate it because we do know that the school district understands our need, and we need your assistance. We're still trying to get books inside of our homes. We're still trying to do some things inside of our community based upon the pandemic and other impediments that impede our progress. We need your assistance, those of you who are in the school district leadership, to assist us in some meaningful way. We're trying to attack the Florida Statute 1003.428, which is a Florida law stipulating that we're supposed to take this kind of new knowledge and share it with our children. We need your help. And this coming Sunday, once again, we will have the attention of our big sister, Ms. Marsha Andrews. We will ask everybody, if you have any African Americans in your community, please tell them that our sister will be talking to our community this coming Sunday, and we appreciate that. Thank you for listening, and I pray that everybody is still safe, and I want y'all to stay safe because we need those of you who have some measure of understanding, we need you to continue to fight this war of ignorance that is prevailing inside of the Palm Beach County school environment. Thank you again. Brother Carl, and we go.
Hi, my name is Emily Bailoff. I'm a parent of 2 elementary school students in the Palm Beach County School District. I'm calling after the fact, I know, but to protest against the calendar that has been approved for the 2021-22 school year, where we are going to give our kids and our teachers and parents only 6 weeks of summer, not to mention a shortened winter break in favor of more time for teachers to teach to a test. And all of this without insisting and ensuring that the governor prioritized teachers for inoculation. I will say that again, without insisting and ensuring that the governor prioritized teachers for inoculation in this state. Not to mention that as of yet, there's still no vaccine for kids under 16. Still, the multiple attempts to fill classrooms to capacity with likely no chance for a continuation of this year's fully funded district-specific distance learning platform. With all of this, a quality world-class education means nothing if teachers and students are not alive to both partake and benefit and teach the education that's being provided and offered. And not just alive, but teachers and students, they have to be healthy in order to fully benefit from this quote-unquote world-class education that the state insists that every county has to offer. Everyone needs a break. Everyone. And to do this year is insane. Winter break is shortened at a time when families are likely going to get together for the holidays for the first time in a year and a half. It's not okay. Summer for these kids, a lot of them are going to have to miss out on summer programs. And the summer programs are going to miss out on building themselves back up from a financial standpoint in this county. It is an awful decision that has been made, and I am very much against it, and I hope that this message will be heard and listened to, and I hope that this decision will be reversed. Thank you.
Hello, this is Carrie Brown. My son is a student at William T. Dwyer High School. While this topic is not on the agenda tonight, I hope it will resonate as you make your budget decisions. First, I want to thank you to the school board members and school district staff for the amazing work that you do. It really is appreciated. While I can only imagine the priority list during this unprecedented time, I do feel urgent attention is required related to the William T. Dwyer High School Media Center. We will eventually get back to a place of normalcy, but we know this time will have a lasting impact on the education of our current students. We owe it to our children to tap the untapped and provide opportunity over obstruction. We can elevate our students by providing an opportunity hub. This resource will allow a space for learning, encouragement, motivation, workforce development, and connection when it will be needed most. I hope you feel the same sense of urgency and that you will invest in our kids as soon as possible. I hope you feel that this combination of access to vital resources, the way that Mr. Brooks leads with love, and the amazing Dwyer staff, I have faith, and I hope you do, that we will rise above from a B school to a model of excellence. I hope you agree and will make a commitment here and now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Davila, and I was calling about the baseball team at Seminole Ridge. What the coach is doing to the seniors is wrong, and it needs to be fixed. He's robbing some of these seniors from their scholarships, from their senior year, from the possibility of being recruited by colleges, and that is wrong. It needs to be fixed. I'm not saying the teacher should lose his position as a teacher, but he needs to be removed as the coach. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angelica Gonzalez, and I do not have a senior student. I'm calling about the Seminole Ridge High School baseball team. I had a student that is coming up into the high school, and this concerns me very much. I hear that you're allowing the coach to remove 7 seniors, which from the baseball team, which I do not think that is right. That is messing up those kids for their scholarships, the recruitment for colleges. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't see how you guys are allowing this to be done. Like I said, I have a child coming up, and this concerns me because if you allow to do this now, him to do this now, what are you going to allow the next coming years? This is not right. Something needs to be done, and I will be following up with this. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Melita Jumper. I am calling about the baseball team at Seminole Ridge. I am very concerned and very upset what is being done to those seniors. As a concerned parent, I expect you to take care of this matter because it is very unfair to our students there. It is bad enough that we're going through this corona situation and it's affecting them already as seniors. They do not need this added on to their plate. Please take care of this. Give these seniors back their positions on the baseball team. And as adults, we need to take care of this. As teachers, as parents, we need to take care of this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gracie Davila, and I was calling regarding a non-agenda topic. And my concern is with Seminole Ridge High School regarding the varsity baseball team, Coach Mr. Pendergast, what he is doing to the senior ball players is uncalled for. He's robbing them from their senior year, and I don't think it's fair what he's doing to them, especially to those who have scholarships. And they're in jeopardy of losing their scholarship. I feel that this is something that needs to be looked into, and I would like my message to be played at the meeting. I will not be able to be present, so if they can play it at the meeting, because this is a concern to myself as a parent and to other parents as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good morning. My name is Amelia Brooks. I'm calling about the baseball team at Seminole Ridge. What they did to those seniors is wrong. Y'all need to fix it. These young men have been with this coach, with the baseball team, since their freshman year. Now it's their senior year, and they're just being dropped like they never meant anything to the team. I'm very upset because this coach is supposed to be their role model, their mentor, and the way he is handling things, he has no business being these young men's coach, role model, or mentor. I believe he should be dismissed from being a coach. If you prefer to keep him as a teacher, that is on the school board, but as a coach, the way he is handling things, the way he presented himself to these young men, he should be released of that duty. Again, this is Amelia Brooks. Please fix this on this baseball team for these young men to have some kind of future after leaving high school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diana Padron. This is a non-agenda topic. I am the parent of one of the senior baseball players at Seminole Ridge High School. These young men have been playing baseball for 3 consecutive years at the high school level until COVID hit. During COVID, we were instructed to stay inside, wear a mask, don't do gatherings, and that is exactly what we did. So we didn't play ball. So these boys could not see each other. I mean, we didn't even have holidays that year, so we didn't get to even see family members. So now, here we are in 2021. Schools are trying to open up, and we are finally starting to feel safe. Vaccines are being produced, and everything is starting to feel back to normal. Only for these young athletes to return to their senior year and being cut from their baseball team. What human does this? Where is the mental health concern for these players? Why isn't anyone realizing that this is wrong? Why isn't anyone realizing the stress that they have already been through? Why isn't this obvious that it's not normal to cut 7 out of 10 seniors that were your starter players? And why doesn't anyone care? Someone needs to address this now and get these boys back on the field so they have something normal. Please do not steal their senior year. COVID has already done enough. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Martinetti, and I'm calling about the Seminole Ridge High School baseball incident. I think that myself, as well as the entire community, is pretty much appalled at what the coach did to those kids. Based on the 350-plus messages on the Acreage Speaks, it appears that this coach has been allowed to do this for the last 15 years that he's been there. Most of these kids have been playing baseball since they were 5 years old. 6 of the 7 seniors that he cut have played for him in particular their last 3 years, some of them even year-round. The boys dedicated their lives to this game and that team. How one coach is able to destroy 7 returning players in one swipe without anybody raising an eyebrow is a little bit confusing to me during a global pandemic nonetheless. I don't think this should be the person that you have representing your school. Take a look at the Acreage Speaks comments and see if this is who you want representing that school, the school board, or anyone even around the town. I really hope that someone has the decency to look into this. Over 15 years, the kids have been affected. Don't we owe it to the future children to not let him do this anymore? I really hope you take this into consideration. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good evening. My name is Megan Guadalupe. You may be aware of the situation that is currently going on with the baseball program at Seminole Ridge High School. I felt it was necessary to reach out to you on behalf of my son as well as other seniors whom were cut from the baseball team this year, their senior year, the year where they could potentially earn a scholarship or opportunity to play baseball in college. What has happened to these young men who have dedicated many, many hours to this program in the last 3 years is unfathomable. With the uncertainty of any senior activities being possible in the middle of a global pandemic, this was their first opportunity for some type of normalcy during their last year of high school, only for it to be taken away from these dedicated players with no direct explanation to them from Coach Pendergast. Only an email to parents an hour before the last tryout stating if 2 players are equally rated, Coach Pendergast will pick the younger player to improve his program. Isn't this what the JV team is for? Throwing away 6 returning players, 5 of them returning, have been a part of the program since their freshman year. Mind you, their freshman year, these 5 players started and or played in many games on the JV baseball team that had won the most games in school history. 1 returning last year as he was a new student to Seminole Ridge in his junior year. It is my understanding that there were only seniors that were released at final cuts, no underclassmen. If this is accurate, what does that say for Coach Pendergast and his coaching staff? Also, it seems a little suspicious that all of a sudden these players whom have started in most, if not all, games in previous years are now all of a sudden not good enough. If that's the case, how have they made the team and had starting positions and a lot of playing time in the past 3 years? Coach Pendergast preaches commitment as one of his criteria that he judges the players on. Playing both fall and spring baseball seasons, practices 5 days a week for 2 to 3 hours a day when there wasn't a game for the last 3 years sure shows a lot of commitment and time to me. There have been several emails, phone calls, and meetings with the principal, Dr. Campbell, and athletic director, Mr. Parks, and it seems they have swept everything under the rug instead of enlightening these athletes as to the real reason their senior year was taken from them. As a parent, I teach my kid that when you're a part of a team sport like baseball, you do not quit or give up on your team. Sadly, in this situation, Coach Pendergast has given up on our senior players. I can't wrap my head around a coach, teacher, or mentor treating a student athlete this way. While this year should be one of the most exciting times of their lives that they won't ever have again, they are left to ponder, why am I now all of a sudden not good enough? This is a memory of Seminole Ridge baseball they will have for a lifetime. I truly hope this isn't something that will continue to happen to every senior in years to come. Thank you.
I think that's the end of the recorded speakers. That'll take us to board discussion items. Board member?
Hello, my name is
Guess
Melissa
not.
Detlani. My request is in regards to Seminole Ridge High School baseball coach Trent Pendergast and his appropriate behavior with and unethical actions that is damaging students and players in this school. He has been using his position for personal and private benefits and has breached our trust by asking parents to pay money directly to him for the students or players to play baseball at Seminole Ridge High School. Students who do not pay for the summer training are released from the team, which just happened to 7 graduating seniors this year. He will not receive any financial benefit to himself, and he is causing scholarships to be revoked and students' dreams to come crashing down. Receiving this financial benefit is against the ethical code of conduct. These issues have been discussed with the principal at this school on various occasions with no resolution. Mr. Pendergast's deplorable actions are well known to the staff, students, and the community. Various past students have publicly described his inappropriate behavior, and this should not be tolerated a minute longer. I request the 7 seniors being targeted to be allowed to finish their season, and a thorough investigation completed by the Board of Education is completed on both Mr. Pendergast and the principal at this school. Nothing less than termination is expected for this type of behavior that is being overlooked for the past decade. I understand that we are presenting this in difficult times, but this should not play a factor on our decision to do what is ethically and morally right for these students. It is crucial to rectify this problem and set a positive example that we as a community can be proud of. Thank you.
Me llamo Emilia Martínez. Estoy llamando por Seminole Bridge High School. Peloteros, lo que está pasando con los signature peloteros. Que eso está mal. Por favor, corrijan esa situación. No es justo que los dejen fuera del juego. Gracias. Bye.
Hello, this is a non-agenda topic. My name is Rafael Padron Sr. My son is one of the baseball players that got cut from Seminole Ridge High School baseball team. What this coach has done by cutting 7 seniors is robbed them of their senior year. He did it to recruit young players for his travel summer team for his personal gain to make money. They played 3 years for this guy, and now they're not good enough. He needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Montanetti. This is a non-agenda item. I'm calling in reference to the baseball situation at Seminole Ridge High School. I have over 20 years experience coaching, umpiring, and administering youth baseball, handling children ages 4 through age 18. I have observed several talented young athletes seem to deteriorate rather than improve in their abilities over the last 4 years at Seminole Ridge. There seems to be a big gap in what we used to call working the games, which is using game situations to illustrate teaching fundamentals or teaching moments. I have no delusions. Vast majority of these young athletes will not be major league players or even college athletes. This experience is one of character building and an aid to preparation for these young people to assume productive roles as they enter society. This is far from the reality, unfortunately, at Seminole Ridge. Improprieties or the appearance of improprieties must be avoided in youth sports at all costs. No coach who financially benefits from coaching in the off-season, i.e. summer baseball, should be allowed to coach the regular high school team. The implied pressure to pay and play is unfortunately affecting every parent who wants the best for their child. If I didn't pay and participate in the summer, I won't be able to make the regular season team. This is often the sentiment expressed by the parents. I have no child on the team. And I feel very strongly that this is a character building and an example setting situation which has been grossly mismanaged and neglected by Coach Pendergast. And I would very much like to see somebody in the position who has the best interests of his children in mind, not someone who baits them, makes snide comments in the hall, or uses the position to further their own ego. I appreciate your listening to my comments. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Gail Weisenborn. I'm calling on the agenda topic regarding the baseball program at Seminole Ridge High School. I'm calling on behalf of the seniors in the baseball program. Most of these seniors have been playing since elementary or middle school, and many of the seniors have a desire for baseball in college. This year, in a pandemic, when they've already lost in-person school, have a questionable in-person graduation, many sports are being canceled in the year. To not allow this senior team, to actually cut this senior team from the baseball is unconscionable and not understandable. My biggest question is, why? And to whose benefit was this decision made? Certainly not the kids, whose best interests should be at the heart of the matter. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that is the real end of the agenda speakers, non-agenda speakers. So it takes us to board discussion items. The first item I have on there is with respect to the advisory committee policy. As you all know, we approved the new emergency policy. Then the Attorney General opinion came in, making it the new policy a violation of sunshine, although I don't agree with the opinion and the analysis of the statutory provisions that were cited. I'm not the Attorney General, so I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is suggest to you that I've worked with the General Counsel, and there is a possibility of a modification to our policy to allow Cork to meet. As all of you know, I attend the Cork meetings. As I told the Cork members, it's extremely important, I believe, that the Cork members give their input to the board because we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. And I just attended the last meeting that lasted like 2 minutes because none of the committee members can speak, although they were all on the Zoom meeting, the Google Meets meeting. None of them are allowed to speak because there wasn't quorum. So when talking to the General Counsel, we looked at the ISOC policy, and that allows for alternates. The alternates are allowed to speak and take part in the meeting. They're just not allowed to vote. So if we change the outcome for 90 days, I talked to David Porter, the chairman of Cork. He feels that within 90 days he'll be able to get quorum again because a couple of the older folks are waiting for their vaccinations, and as soon as they get those, they're willing to come back in. So what I suggest is we change the makeup of Cork for 90 days to allow for 7 alternates and 7 regular board members. The alternates would be allowed to participate and speak. They just wouldn't be able to vote, so they could get their point across to the other voting members. And then for quorum purposes, only the 7 would count. So they would only need 4 board members to be present or committee members to be present in order to have a valid Cork Sunshine okayed meeting. Although all of them could participate, it would only take 4 of them to be in the room at one time in order to have a meeting. So what I'm suggesting is we do something with that policy so that we can, and they've now missed 4 months of being able to advise the board on agenda items that we've been approving, other than being able to individually send us their thoughts on them. But so I request a motion and a second that the following be placed on the agenda for the next public board meeting for the board to vote on: an emergency modification of policy 1.093 on Cork to reduce the number of primary members and allow for alternate members to be effective for 90 days. And 2, if the emergency policy is adopted, that there be a second item on that agenda for the board to vote on which member of their recommended appointees to Cork be designated as a primary member and which person will be designated as an alternative member for 90 days. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. Has Cork indicated that they have people who would be interested in being alternate members?
Well, this is a good question because I asked district administration was to contact every Cork member. I checked, and it was not a sunshine violation because it's not anything they're going to vote on, and find out which of them would be willing to be alternates and which ones would come to the meetings. I don't know what the result of that is. I was told that tonight each of us was going to get something about our individual members. I asked the General Counsel why we couldn't just get a list so we could all see which of the 14 members is willing to come and not. So if any of you received something, I didn't check my email recently, but I don't know which one of the Cork members is willing to come and which ones aren't, or which ones are willing to be alternates and which ones aren't. Ms. Brill?
So I understand the conundrum, and it's horrible because it puts us in it's a bad position because we rely on the Cork members so much. But I have the same question: is who's going to be alternates? Is it in that body that you already have? By the time we sort that out, the people who are older who are getting the COVID shots may be back. So because that whole process takes 4, 5, 6 weeks before they're fully covered. If at the longest, it's either 4 or 6 weeks. So if they're getting the vaccines, we may be fine in a month. So I just feel that, we need more information.
General Counsel, do you know where this information is at that I asked to be presented to the board tonight?
Well, I know that there's a staff person who has the information, and that information can be made available to you all. It's my understanding that your appointees have indicated, what their preferences are, and so that information can be provided to you. You can certainly ask your appointee. You can contact individual Cork members to get their, to get their input on that. And then if it does go forward as an emergency policy, you could vote at that same time on, which one of your appointees would serve as an alternate and or a primary.
Mrs. Paul.
So I believe Ms. Hahn, Holly Hahn in the General Counsel's office has that information. In regards to a summary, I think the majority of the members were okay with that, but in terms of having that system where you have alternates, but I think it's a question as to, who will be the alternate. So if each board member has 2 members, then, that has to be sorted out.
Well, we don't necessarily have to have each board member pick which one of their 2 is an alternate. There may be 7 alternates that, that want to be alternates that we should just look at it as a whole, is why I asked that we had some summary that said which of the current 13 members are willing to do what, so the board can look at that list and say, yes, there are 7. Whether they're mine or Dr. Robinson's or somebody else's, it doesn't matter. There are 7 that said they would be alternates. So, I wish we would have gotten that information. I asked it to be presented tonight. I know that the Cork members were all asked and they gave their opinions, but anyway, if the board was willing to still move forward with this, we can still get it done, and then we'll know by the next meeting which one of them are willing to serve as alternates and which ones aren't. Ms. McQuinn and then Vice Chairwoman Brill.
I think I saw Ms. Brill's hand first, so I'll go. Thank you.
All I was going to do is make the motion that you asked us to make, but I can't remember everything you said. So I move what Chairman Barbieri stated.
Can I ask real quick? I just want to know, what can Wanda's team, what can we provide to the board to help make the decision? I just need to know what you need.
Well, if the board is willing to make an emergency policy to do this, by the next meeting, we're going to need to know which of the Cork members is willing to come to the meeting. It's not so much which ones are willing to be alternates. We need to know if we have at least, 4 or 5 that are willing to come to the meetings. Now, according to David Porter, he thinks he can get 6. So if we can get this policy in place, starting in March, we could have a Cork meeting instead of another month, which would make 5 months of no Cork meetings. So if we can just have that information by the time this goes on the agenda, which would be March 3rd, we'd be able to move forward. Dr. Robinson? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. McQuinn, you were next.
That's okay. Shouldn't have given up my spot. Do we need a second for us to?
Dr. Robinson seconded the motion.
I'm making no motion because I want to be able to make a decision. Okay, I'm uncomfortable voting for an emergency policy. That Cork is one of our most complicated committees for me to understand, and I so appreciate Mr. Porter's work and keeping us all informed. And I do understand that they need to come before us. There's very important work to be done. We have referendum projects. We have so much to be done, but I'm not comfortable saying that I would support that when it comes forward. I would want time to really look at it.
Dr. Robinson.
So I appreciate the creativity, actually. But let me just say that, and I realize that approach will not work for the other advisory committees because we don't have, primary, or we don't have 2 representatives for each one. But let me just say, I think that the other advisory committees are so valuable that they deserve the same kind of creative thought. I know the answer won't be the same, but. And yeah, Cork, with their architects and engineers and all that, all that is kind of like foreign to me, and I really do depend on that. But for example, District Diversity and Equity Committee and Academic Advisory Committee were created after a time of crisis in this district. And I want to hear their voice too, right? So if we can come up with whatever kind of free thinking, creativity to see if we can figure out how to do whatever, emergency, whatever, so that they can meet and so that, there's enough of a quorum so that other people can participate virtually so that then I can watch their meetings and learn from them and see the world through these multiple viewpoints, because that's why we created those 2. And then we have budget advisory. I mean, our advisory committees are all valuable. It's not just Cork, but I'm good with this.
Dr. Abrams, I understand, and my understanding is General Counsel's office, I asked you to make sure you looked at every single advisory committee to the board to see if what we could do to make sure that they all had quorum. I understand audit just missed their last meeting because they didn't have quorum, so we need to take a look at all of those. My understanding was your office was looking at all those policies. I just know that I'm pushing on Cork because I go to that meeting every month and they haven't had a meeting for 4 months, so I agree with you. All of us have an interest in the budget committee, the calendar committee is the superintendent's. But we have the TAC and we have all the other advisory committees that advise us, and my understanding is we were looking at that, and one policy doesn't fit all of them. Each one of them has some different aspects that need to be considered. I don't know who was next. Mrs. Andrews?
And we heard from Ron LaFace today, and he sounded like this might move, so it looks like we may just be sitting on not getting any information for the next few months. He seemed to think that it was, it was received. Because this is a problem that's happening all across the state. It's not just here in Palm Beach County. So have we checked around to see what other districts are doing?
Yes, I've been in communication with Broward because they specifically requested an Attorney General opinion because they're experiencing, the same outcry, if you will, from their constituents and their committees as well. So, I mean, we're all in the same boat here. Now, to Dr. Robinson's question, the fix, if you will, is this alternative members or alternate members and primary. Now, the difficulty in that is sometimes it's not that easy to come up with one, let alone two. So, that's the difficulty in it, but the out-of-the-box or creative thinking is to come up with a primary and an alternate so that it can reduce the number of voting members, which will then reduce your quorum. So that is something that our office could work on, recommending to the superintendent an emergency policy, but that still leaves open the question of, can you get enough volunteers to fill those two roles? And then the other sticky wicky, if you will, is the fact that some of these advisory committees are appointed by outside organizations, and that just complicates it because it's the power to appoint, it's not in the hands of the board members. So that creates a complication that, we can continue to look into that, but that would require a little more discussion in those instances.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. So this kind of ties into when we were talking about our legislative priorities and home rule and the ability to do certain things when there's an emergency. And I think it's incumbent upon the people that are going to be lobbying up in Tallahassee or speaking to Tallahassee on our behalf, and we should as well, to make sure that our legislators know that the inability that we have in a crisis like this to be able to meet virtually or to make those decisions ourselves, it's impeding our operations. And so I think that needs to be shared. And we need to talk about it, because this is a perfect example of what happens when there's an emergency and we're not able to meet the needs of our district.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion?
Yeah, okay.
Opposed? Ms. McQuinn's opposed. The motion carries 6-1. All right. So it'll be on the, it'll be on the agenda for the March 3rd meeting. Those two items will be on the agenda for the March 3rd meeting. Superintendent's indicated that before that meeting, we'll have the response from all 13 current members. I think there's one vacancy. I'm not sure which one of you need to appoint somebody, but the 13 members as to which of them would be willing to be alternates and which of them are willing to come to the meeting so that we can finally get Cork to meet. Mrs. Andrews?
Yes, and I heard you, Dr. Robinson, with those committees. We're in this pandemic with our children falling behind, and those committees are real critical. Now, I know you said Broward, but we have the Florida School Boards Association. We did hear from Ron LaFace, but I would like to know what's happening. This is a state issue, And I would like to see some research to be done. I mean, we have some real creative counties, and maybe some people have come up with some solutions here. And if somebody from, through the chair to the superintendent, somebody can do some legwork to see what's going on around us so that we can at least, by the time we get back together again, maybe have some ideas of what people are doing. The Superintendents Association, lots of different groups out there experiencing the same thing that we're experiencing. So if somebody could check on that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, board members. My computer went down, so the next item on the agenda is a discussion item. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. So this is a topic that really irritates me. And so I'm going to try to see if I can do this in an organized fashion. So first off, you know, World Health Organization declared in January 30th, 2020, public health emergency of international concern. It formally became the pandemic, right? We're the largest employer in Palm Beach County. Now, there is a treatment available under emergency use authorization for the treatment of COVID if you have mild to moderate symptoms. It's monoclonal antibody. These are lab-made proteins that attach to the spike protein that I think everybody's heard about of this SARS-CoV-2 virus. These monoclonal antibody treatments received their EUA in November and December, I believe. So I want to give some information, and then I'm going to get to my point. So the criteria is if you're COVID positive, you're within 10 days of symptom onset, and you have any underlying conditions that increase your risk of severe disease, meaning obesity, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, immunosuppressive disease. I think we kind of have heard these before, right? Age greater than 65 or age greater than 55, and cardiovascular disease, hypertension, or chronic respiratory disease. So we're the largest employer. I suspect we have a significant number of employees that would fall into this high-risk category. So as part of my commitment to a community-based organization, after receiving information about the availability of monoclonal antibody or lack thereof, I started doing some digging, and I spent a significant amount of time last week calling the Tallahassee, the Surgeon General's office, and talking to, seemed like 25 people there in multiple hospitals, right? Now, I'm going to tell you what a pharmacist in a hospital told me, and I'm going to quote this pharmacist, that they made a corporate decision not to provide this monoclonal antibody at their particular hospital. And it just really angers me because I'm going to tell you who has it, right? And then you figure it out, okay? So Wellington, Jupiter, Bethesda, Boca Regional. See the pattern? You understand what I'm saying? So my neighbors, if anybody tested positive, the hospital anywhere near us would say, nope, we don't have it. Go home, check your oxygen level. You know, when it drops, when you become short of breath, come in. We'll put you in the ICU and on the ventilator, okay? Now, okay. It ticks me off. The studies show that the monoclonal antibody is quite effective. Of course, nothing is 100%. The former president got it, okay? But I'm concerned that our employees can't get it unless they know and have a ride to one of the previously mentioned hospitals. And so I bring this up not just for educational purposes, but to ask our risk management, and especially as we're now going into these negotiations for insurance coverage again, right? What I want to make sure of, to every extent that I can, is that we are not financially incentivizing hospitals who make a corporate decision to not prevent illness, okay? That bugs the living daylights out of me. So they say, I'm telling you, it seemed like a million conversations. One was, well, you know, our outpatient infusion is for the patients getting chemotherapy. We can't mix them with COVID patients. Well, damn, excuse me, how big is your hospital? You don't have any other space. Like, I do not understand this, okay? Another one said, well, we can't tie up our emergency room beds. What? So you want to wait? It's your corporate decision to wait until their oxygen level drops, and then you can tie up an emergency room bed? Like, I cannot accept this, right? Now that I've seen it, now that I've seen the pattern, and I understand the significance of this would be like saying, I'm not going to treat your hypertension till you have a stroke. What? And so my request is that the board, I hope you agree with me, that we ask our risk management folks to try to determine, to whatever degree they can, are we incentivizing hospitals that deny this life-saving medication, right? And also, if we can use whatever leverage we can find as the largest employer in Palm Beach County to help these hospitals understand that it's in the public interest, right, to make this available. It's free, okay? The feds buy it from the manufacturers. They send it to the State Department of Health. The Florida Department of Health has an intermediary. The hospitals order it from the intermediary. If you go on the DOH website, they'll tell you that, and no, not on the website. This was quoted to me by one of these 25 million people I talked to, that the Florida Department of Health equitably provides the monoclonal antibody to the healthcare facilities that completed the survey. And every 2 weeks, they send a link out to the healthcare facilities so that they can reorder, okay? Now, I'm not going to name them, but you know who they are, who's not ordering it. And my neighbors, the very ones who's keeping their children home because they're scared that they're going to bring the virus back home and that somebody's going to die from it. Well, guess what? And then they can't get the monoclonal unless they had transportation and they know to go to one of the hospitals I named. I'm sorry. This is one of the most egregious examples of inequity that I'm aware of. And I would just like for us to do everything that we can do to try to eliminate this inequity. Thank you.
Board comments? Mrs. Andrews, are you reaching? Dr. Ramos, is this something that our clinic, the new clinic, could help with that's here on our property?
There's a process by which they would need to get authorized. I'd be happy to give that information to whoever was going to track this down, right?
Dr. Roberts, if you can get that information to Mr. Burke, he'll get it to the team, and we'll explore.
Okay,
it.
so but listen, that's a good look, but that is not enough.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, and certainly it's alarming, but there's more hospitals involved than the ones you're thinking about just in your neighborhood. I mean, I was sitting here thinking about all the other ones in my district that don't have it too. So if there's an opportunity, I mean, this is unfortunately beyond my scope of intelligence and understanding. I would leave it to staff to see what could be done.
Mrs. Andrews?
And we have United Healthcare. They know. The medical groups know. I mean, we're dealing with Alina Alonso from the health department. The things that you're talking about tonight, I would think the healthcare district, all of those people have this kind of information that you're talking about, Dr. Robinson. So when I think about this, and you know, and people are getting sick left and right, and we don't know what's going to happen to anybody, I really want to know how this works. And when I hear this, you're talking about equity, I can call it a whole lot of other names, because lots of people are being left behind, and guess what? They're going to die if we don't do what we needed to do. We saw the president when he was taken in. He was really sick, the former president, and he got that and was able to walk right back out. All of the people that were kind of sick with him and his entourage got it, okay? And all of these people who have connections are getting it. And I'm talking about a bus driver, a custodian, I mean, a teacher. You know, all of these people who work every day, they're frontline people making it happen. We're talking about getting the schools open. We want all the schools to open as fast as we can. But if we don't have the knowledge and the skills necessary to know that when our people need help, that they're going to be able to know where to go and what to do. And when I hear this scenario that Dr. Robinson is talking about, it's pretty frightening. So I think Mr. Burke and Diane Howard and the people over in RISC, you all can dig into this and get us a lot more information about what this is all about and how is it impacting us as the largest employer of people who make a whole lot of money within our district for those who make very little. And those that make a lot of money can get what they need depending on where they live and the circumstances. But those people that can't get it, it's like we just got the vaccine out in Pahokee because the people weren't getting it, and all over Palm Beach County and Tabernacle Baptist Church where people couldn't get it. And in Delray, it's the same kind of thing we're talking about again. If you get sick, how are you going to be able to get the help that you need? And since we pay the big insurance companies and they want to do business with the school district of Palm Beach County, I would like to get some answers to this so that we can help our people.
Vice Chairwoman Brill and then Ms. Ayala.
Thank you. So I have two suggestions, Dr. Robinson, in addition to what you're talking about. First off is educating the county commission, someone reaching out to the county commission, because this is a county-wide issue. It's not, I mean, it affects our employees and we're the school board, but I think that they need to also advocate. And then I know that you replaced me on the School Health Advisory Committee. I think we need as many hands and people to know about this, because I certainly didn't. So I think it's a matter of, I'm sure you were planning to share that with them, but I do think that it's something that the county commission should be aware of, because at least one of those hospitals that you mentioned is connected to other hospitals that you didn't mention that clearly don't have it. So it's a concern.
Ms. Ayala.
Thank you. And Dr. Robinson, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention with your background and expertise and how this can be implemented. I wasn't even aware this was being done in our county, so it was kind of news to me, and I appreciate that knowledge. I think that we agree that we want to do anything in our power to make sure that our employees, our school staff, our teachers, and our students are as safe as they can be and as healthy as they can be going into the summer and another school year. And I think everyone on our team will do anything to make that happen. But may I recommend that we all use up here as leaders in the community our connections with other business community leaders to reach out to that JFK, to that Good Sam, to that St. Mary's. We all know people in their government relations team, people who run the hospitals. What are they doing? What can they do when we say that this is a priority for us? And then our team can then back that up with the need for that. But I think this is something that we can be a leader on. But we certainly, as we all understand, do not have the capacity as a school district to make this happen at hospitals. So we have to start working our community kind of together to make this happen for us. But I appreciate it being brought up and how anything we can do to make that happen. I think we all have the capacity to start reaching out to our partners in the healthcare field in this county and start asking that they make this a priority too.
Mrs. Andrews.
But I think that, and I like all of that, but I think we now know what's happening around here in Palm Beach County. We don't have all the information, but you really let it out tonight, Dr. Robinson, that some people are getting the service and others are not. And so we're a big employer, $3 billion industry, $3+ billion industry here. And we can find out. And yes, the county, Ms. Brill, because guess what? That's where we go through the county, the healthcare district and everybody, the county commissioners, all of us. And we know the different hospitals. I don't know if they have it out at Lakeside and Belle Glade, you know, I don't know. And so as a result, when we start looking at this thing, I want to see more. I want to see the discrepancy and what are we going to do to fix it is what I'm talking about. And, you know, that's why I said risk management, the health agencies as well as the county health department. Dr. Alonso knows. I mean, you know, we have nurses in every school, all of these people that do this work. And you're a doctor, Dr. Robinson. That's why you did your digging and you found out. So other people know. And before somebody dies or whatever happens here in Palm Beach County because they can't get it, we need to see what we can do to be proactive. And I agree, Ms. Ayala, that we know a lot of people and we can begin having those conversations. But I would like to see some kind of way that we can not just have our own individual conversations. I want to find a way that I can see what's going on because somebody has the data, and that's what we need to see. That's what I'd like to see.
Go ahead, Doc.
Thank you. Well, thank you for recognizing this as an issue. I could tell you, you could go on the HHS website, and there's also an infusion clinic website that lists who has it. It's not, Lakeside has never been listed. Like, surprise, surprise, right? I don't know, I appreciate your comments and your thoughts and your suggestions. I agree with Mrs. Andrews. I want to see the change, right? You know, and I think that we have a lot of leverage as the largest employer. And just in closing, I will just add that the T. Leroy Jefferson Medical Society, which is the local branch of the National Medical Society, which is the medical society created by black physicians, you know, a century or so ago when we could not join the white medical society. T. Leroy Jefferson Medical Society will be having a press conference tomorrow at 1 o'clock about this issue as well as other inequities related to the whole COVID testing, vaccine distribution, as well as this treatment. Now, they're not letting me speak because I think they don't trust me to stay inside the lines. Imagine that. But I appreciate you hearing me. Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Let me just jump in really quickly on one item. I actually had heard that this was going on as well. And I've heard through this process that you have to be a real advocate for yourself in order to get it too. So if you get to the hospital, they may not just give it to you even if you qualify. And just this whole conversation is bringing back bad memories of me being in a hospital with my baby last year this time. So, you know, I know how hard it can be when you're sick to advocate for yourself. And you know, it's really, this whole conversation is bothering me thinking about the people in our employment that don't have a voice. And so I'm hoping that in addition to this conversation, we're also going to say something about giving it out to everyone, no matter if they speak the right language or, you know, have the right friends in that process. So if we could add that to the list, thanks.
Go ahead, Doc.
Thank you. And that's a good point. First, they need to have it. But can we just also, the other issue is, and so T. Leroy Jefferson and Unify and others are coming together. We're probably going to do a community campaign around if you test positive, and you have any of these risk factors, you could be a candidate, go demand it, to your point. But, and even there are doctors who are still telling people, just go home and check your oxygen level, right? So there's some education that has to take place in the medical community too. But my point in raising my hand again is to say, can we please ask United Healthcare to include that as part of their messaging? It seems to me that, and I didn't see it when I was playing on their website, I didn't see it. They mentioned monoclonal antibodies, but I didn't see where they said, like, go get it, right? And so how about this? How much money is it going to save, all right? If for people who only care about money, okay? Which as best I can figure out is the corporate decision. Because the best I can figure out is they're not going to make money by giving people monoclonal antibody. So they're not going to give it. That's the best. I want that. I want to be wrong. I want to be proven wrong. But anyway, but the bottom line is United Health and we should want to have any of our employees that test positive be evaluated, and if they meet the criteria, receive the monoclonal antibody should they choose to have it, because then not only does that prevent, hospitalization, and also understand that we do not know all the long-term consequences of this. We have employees who were hospitalized for months, came back to work, made it a day and a half, and went back home, okay? And so I'm just saying, so not only that, the human cost, but let's just talk about the financial cost and then the cost of an intensive care unit stay. So like they should want to spread that word. And so I'm going to ask that our, Dr. Fennoy, if you would have the appropriate folks contact them and say they need to spread the word while we're on the other side trying to get people to request it and have it available for whosoever shows up and meets the criteria.
All right, the next board discussion item is BD3. Ms. Brill.
Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, I was with the Council of Great City Schools for 2 very intense days, Friday and Saturday through the night. And most of our conversation revolved around the strategic planning and goals and guardrails, as they called it. And some of the districts were sharing, and we saw some of their plans. But I want to backtrack for a minute just to say that our calendars are vague on purpose. We had for the March 3rd meeting, the calendar says board special workshop meetings. And it wasn't until our board clerk passed out this email packet from Kathleen that I realized that we're going to be talking about strategic plan on the 3rd. And it entered my mind, why are we doing the strategic plan before we do the equity workshops? If we really want to make a strategic plan that's going to influence student outcomes in this district, we shouldn't be putting the cart before the horse. So I'm changing this a little, and I hope I don't get in trouble for it, but it didn't dawn on me that we're doing the equity piece like after we start the strategic planning. But the purpose of my discussion item was the thing that stood out to me was how fantastic those districts were that were using the Council of Great City Schools to facilitate their strategic plan. So I contacted Mr. Tierney, and I said to Mr. Tierney, I know we have Mary Furtakis working with us on the equity plan. I said, who's doing the strategic plan? And he said, we are. And I said, ooh, I'm not really sure that we're going to, and it's no offense to staff at all, it's not meant that way, but if we really want to make a difference, if we really want to talk about student outcomes, my ask is, number one, that we look to the Council of Great City Schools, if everybody's in agreement, to facilitate that process. And if we have to change that meeting on March 3rd, pop in other workshops. And then 2 is, should we be doing this before the equity piece is finished? Because I don't think we should.
Dr. Robinson?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. In my mind, I've said this before, but I don't know if it came out of my mouth, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need to figure out where we're trying to go. And then part of, I'd say to people all the time, equity is a noun and a verb. And if you recall when we had the workshop before, I asked for us to define, what did I call it? The portrait of a graduate? The portrait of the graduate is equity, the noun, where we're trying to get to, right? And so I think we need to have all those conversations before we start talking about how we get there. We don't even know where we're going. And then if we keep saying that we want equity embedded in everything, we need to have real conversation and ongoing conversations about equity. So I agree, 100%.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I'm just curious if we do, really asking staff this question, if we do change this, does this change next week and upcoming weeks? Are we going to have to kind of pivot on this?
Yeah, so you have to remember, our challenge right now is just getting you all scheduled to get this stuff done. So, remember, we don't have a meeting every week with you guys. So at this point, we have two consultants that one you pay for, one you don't even know we don't pay for. So we have a group called Insights that's been working with us, and it's a big grant. And so they are working with us on the development of the strategic plan. But again, the reason why next meeting is important, because it's still a structural meeting. It's not a substance meeting. So we have to get these structures in order around the strategic planning process. That is very important for us. And I can't agree with you on that. We have to get these structures in place with the groups that we have. So I am open to hiring a third consultant when the implementation period is necessary. But right now, we are on a very tight timeline with everything we're asking you to do. And so for me, we would have to go back and then now readjust everything. And that is something that I am very apprehensive about at this point.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. So my belief is that if we really want a meaningful strategic plan, it's not a race, number one. We have to do it right. Looking at what is on the agenda for the next time, yes, we could talk about the groups that are involved, but this is too important. This is about student outcomes, and I really feel that I want this strategic plan to be something meaningful, something measurable. We also discussed how you could do individual, like board evaluations based upon your strategic plan, if you do this strategic plan right, which is something that this board has also discussed. I know Dr. Robinson has discussed that in the past. We have a lot of workshops out there. We're talking about 2 weeks from now. So if we want to talk about some of the structure and the stakeholder groups, that's fine. But I feel very strongly about this. I think that we really, truly, if we want to get to a different place, if this is what we really believe, then we need to do it right.
Mrs. Andrews.
I think we're lucky that we have Ms. Brill in this cohort with the Council of Great City Schools. And we pay a lot of money to be members of the Council of Great City Schools. Those 76 big urban districts, many of them have been through their equity piece and way ahead of where we are. And that training has come from the council leadership. And that's what you're getting a bite of right now, Ms. Brill. And so I really don't want us to stray off, because we've had a strategic plan, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we look at the things that we had not done before. We had this wonderful, beautiful glossary book of all these things that we were going to do, and so on and so on. And then when you kind of dig deep into it, much of that we had not been able to make the success of it. So we need to make sure before we start talking about this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, that we know what we're going to be doing. And you almost need to have someone who's had success in doing it, and doing it in the big urban districts. And that's what you pay for in your membership with the council, to get that done.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I don't want to throw a huge wrench into all the work that staff's doing, though, and we did just put off our master board training because we said we were so busy. So the idea of if we push this back, it's going to create more meetings down the line. As a compromise, could we have this meeting next week so we can at least have a little bit of the structural discussion around the strategic plan, let staff do that, and then following that meeting, see if they have an opportunity to tweak the calendar so we can put more equity stuff on the front end before we get into the rest of the strategic planning. Would that work for everyone?
Well, let me just go ahead and say what we've already scheduled and we've shared with you. So next week is a structural meeting. We're not even bringing back any drafts about the strategic plan until May. In March and April are all of our equity workshops. It's already designed that way.
Ms. Brill?
So then I return to the original question, and that is keep your meeting in place for 2 weeks from now, not next week. Do the equity piece, and then with a nod of approval from my colleagues, reach out, and I've already provided a name to Mr. Tierney from the Council of Great City Schools. They may have others, but he's the one working with these successful urban districts. See if we can use them to facilitate those future meetings for the strategic
I agree,
plan.
I want the board to be clear. You have to, it is not a free service. We have to, so it's an additional cost on top of the money we already pay. Because I think one of you said that we already paid the money. No, we haven't paid for this yet. Yeah, we pay for the membership, but the cost of the service is another round of dollars. So I just want you guys to know that, that's all.
Dr. Robbins?
Thank you. So the Insight people that we don't pay for, so at our meeting in 2 weeks around the structure, I need to understand the structure that they intend to deliver and how that interacts with the equity work and what their background is in working with equity. But the other thing, the overarching message that I'm taking away is, I think I'm going to put words in Ms. Brill's mouth. It's clearly what I think. Like, why do we need to rush, right? So I don't know, like, it's not like when our current strategic plan expires, no one knows what to do, right? And then the other thing is, I started showing data because I think we need to digest that data to figure out how we remedy the inequitable outcomes we see, right? And I think that requires discussion. Like, I know, we have an outstanding leadership team and it's in the academic areas that I focus on, Dr. Sheffield, Mr. Oswald, and Dr. Fenoy will bring forward recommendations, but we need to own it, which means we need to understand it, right? And so in my mind, like the last data I showed with these foundational reading skills, and we're moving backwards for certain subgroups from K to 3. Okay, so what's the targeted solution for that? If we don't embrace the data and understand it and deliberate about the meaning of it and how we get to these inequitable outcomes, how do we propose to solve it? And I don't see that happening in the next couple months, not if we're going to do it properly. Because we're supposed to be a collective, deliberative body, right? And so I get that we hired a superintendent, deputy CAO to be our academic experts, but guess what? We have, what do they say? I have shoes in my feet and, brain in my head, and I'm going to think about it, right? And I'm going to give my best input. And that's what we all need to do if we're going to do a strategic plan that we are going to own. And guess what? And that we are going to approve the funding for each step, because that's what ultimately is going to come to us for, right? So I think this is part of an educational process for us. What does equity mean? And then what does it look like in action? And yes, some of these districts can help share their journey on the particular thing. Maybe somebody's addressed these foundational reading skills and they can tell us the path they walked, right? But we need to do this in a deliberate fashion. And I'm not in a rush, because I want it to be just outstanding and really a blueprint for true success, and that we have that portrait of the graduate and we see our young people marching through our system to reach that predefined point, if not better.
Ms. McQuinn?
Okay. I should have written my thoughts down as I was listening. First, we talked about, Dr. Fenoy mentioned a third consultant contract. We would need to know what is that dollar amount, and is it equal to the amount we're not going to pay for Master Board training right now? Okay, that's one. Don't let me get past this. I suppose we don't have a deadline for, I know what it was, a deadline for the strategic plan, but let me come back. So if we're going to be facilitated, and I only hear wonderful things about the Council of Great City Schools, and I think most of our senior leadership has participated in that. I certainly plan to. I had it on my planner if we ever get past the pandemic so that I can do that. I think you guys did a lot of collegial bonding when you were at the last conference. But it's my understanding, and I want to be part of that. So here's what I want to know, though. Go to the data. If a facilitator from Great City Schools were to work with us, I don't want to work just with someone who has a great plan. I want to work with someone who has data to show that their plan works. And that's very important to me. I don't want somebody to tell me how to build a plan. That was it. Thank you.
So board members, I'm not sure what we're asking the superintendent to do now. So we're going to go forward on March 3rd with the structural part of it. Go ahead.
So what I'm asking is, with a nod of heads, if this board would like the superintendent to come back to us and let us know what the cost would be to have the Council of Great City Schools come in to facilitate. Mrs. McQuinn, I can assure you that that's exactly what we were looking at, not just somebody to hand us a plan. Because I think that we already are, we talk about being the top urban school district in Florida. I want to be the top urban district in the United States. I want us to set a high bar. And so I think that that's what we want, is for the superintendent to come back and let us know what it would be and let us vote on it.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes, I would agree with that. And also what I would like to see in whatever from the Council of Great City Schools in terms of a proposal is what work they do with the board. Because again, I'm really stuck on the fact that we need to look at the data to know what's broken. I mean, there's some things that are working, right? Like, so why would we mess with that, right? So, but we need to look at and truly with an eye on equity on what things are not working. And hopefully that's all automatically part of the Council of Great City Schools process, but I want to make sure it is.
Board members, superintendent's got a plan for March 3rd. So the question is, what exactly do you want the superintendent to do on March 3rd besides bring us a price on what it would cost to get a facilitator in here from Great City Schools? I mean, he's got all this laid out. You know, we got to give direction, right? We can't just leave it up in the air about we all want to have equity workshops and forget about the plan for now. So, Ms. McQuinn.
I don't want to make, other than what we've asked the superintendent for in terms of cost, because we know how much Master Board was going to cost. And again, I want data. I don't want to hear anybody's plan if they can't show that they got results. That's what this district, I believe, still does, is to look at schools who have been successful in any little data box and, okay, what are you doing? And can that be applied to other schools? I don't want just we think something will work. So I'm not comfortable yet that we're on the same page with that. Otherwise, I don't want to make a decision tonight. All of this is thrown at us in a discussion. I don't want to do that. I want to do March 3rd. I want to see the structure. Then we can have a discussion then about where we want to go next. I don't want to throw anything else in the mix right now.
All right, so instead of having another hour of discussion, are we all in agreement that on March 3rd, he'll bring back what he's planning on bringing for us? And in the meantime, we'll contact Great City Schools and find out what it would cost to bring a facilitator in here that is not going to build a plan for us, but is going to, do what Mrs. McQuinn said. Yeah.
So
Okay,
yes,
let's
so
just
that's
not keep
what I was
going on and on and on with discussion
Okay,
on
well,
this.
let me finish with this, because I think this is really important. I'll go on and on and on all night when it comes to the strategic plan. This is Marsha's fault, because she got me involved with this. So, but anyway, I completely agree. We're going to go forward on the 3rd, do what was planned, but I expect the superintendent to have staff have those conversations and come back and put an item out there for us so that from what I understand, we're not going to be looking at the strategic plan in the month of March anyway, or in April. So we have the time to hire a consultant. Even if we just do the third and you can't get the information, then come back the next week with it. But bring back information to us. And Dr. Robinson, I wasn't going to mention this here, but just so you know, my conversation with Dr. Fenoy this week, I talked about the data. And I talked about feeling what you were talking about. And I was told that Dr. Fenoy is planning to bring that back to us also, because I had tied it in with that academic improvement, whatever the plan is. And I said, we need to hear the figures, we need to hear the data first. But the whole weekend, after being with them, I understood where you were coming from.
So let me just say, I'll have Mr. Tierney respond to this, but there's a couple of things I want to do. So the data workshop is on March 3rd, so we're bringing all of that back on the 3rd. The other thing about the consultant, so remember, consultant contracts have beginning dates and end dates. So I'll let Mr. Tierney speak, but at some point, if we hire a contract, the question becomes, really here's the question that I have. Do we even want to do a strategic plan for next year? Because if the answer is no, then that can change everything, because what we can't do is roll out a strategic plan in November. That doesn't make any sense because you need summers to get ready for the changes, right? So I'll let Ed speak, but and I also need Ed, make sure that Kathy sends the board again the timelines that we've already created with all of the pieces that are spelled out about what was happening on those days, so that you'll know exactly. We've already mapped it. Again, so March 3rd. That's a data workshop. But I don't know if any of you remembered that is what next week is. It's a data workshop. So I want to make sure that you are refed all the information that we've created. We will definitely bring back the information about the council. But there's another thing Ms. Brill said that is interesting to me. How do you not know that Palm Beach is one of the top urban districts in the country? Because I keep hearing you say, find a district who's done, and I want to know who these people are. Like who has done, remember the strategic plan is unique to us. It is not a replication of someone else's work. It's just not. So I think so Dr. Robinson is absolutely correct. We have to own this work. And so I think that's the tension point I'm having is, are we going to commit the time to get it done, or are we just going to push this thing back into, because at some point, again, I have to apologize for who I am as a person. We have to have a date that things are due in order to plan towards that date. And so so Mr. Tierney, I'll let you go, but we have to figure this timeline out.
So I'll address as many of the comments as I could kind of take notes on as they came. First, the flow of creating the strategic plan before or concordant with defining equity, mission, vision. That's not how it's laid out. We're going to do mission, vision, and equity in the month of March. Those are the workshops that are scheduled or being scheduled, with a draft of the strategic plan not due until May. So the whole sequencing plan was always to build mission, vision, then equity, then with a strategic plan framework. We did make an adjustment per Dr. Robinson's comment that if equity is going to be in the mission and vision, how do we not define that first? So we did flip that, because that did make sense, that if we're going to use that word in there. So we made that slight adjustment, but it was always those three items addressed prior to strategic plan. So the workshop on the strategic plan in March is really just a structural. This is how it will be laid out. This is the dates. This is how we will go about interfacing with the community. So it wasn't going to be one before the other. The data, the board pushed, Ms. Andrews particularly, but the board really wanted to hear basically a sunsetting of the current strategic plan. How did we do? We want to hear that before we move to the next one. And that is one of the three workshops on March 3rd, to give a very detailed brief to the board that's data rich on the current strategic plan, which will probably highlight some of the directions we want to go for the next strategic plan. Now, Mary Furtakis, our consultant, she will not participate in that data portion, but she'll be listening. We're going to give her a link. We spoke with her today because she thought hearing the data in the current strategic plan would then help her as she walks you through the needs assessment process to help create the next strategic plan. So her conversations with the board that she'll send up individually, and then at a future meeting will be, what do you think the needs assessment are? What should the district start doing, stop doing, keep doing, after you've got the benefit of hearing all the data from the March 3rd workshop? And then for Insight, who we're working with now, I've personally found to be impressive as far as I don't have their resume to go through their whole litany, but they did work with Dina Hayes, who's connected with REI, so we did kind of look in to make sure they had an equity background and an ability to walk that walk, and we found that they did, and they've been impressive to date. And I think I'll stop there for if there would look like there's a question.
And I would just add on the insights, another thing we found out, so the superintendent in Greensboro is on a council graded schools with me, and so Insights is who did the work with the board in Greensboro to get them ready for the strategic planning initiative, when that was part of our research, when Dr. LaCava's team brought that to us.
Ms. McQuinn?
I've been relatively quiet. I just want us as a body to remember that when we start our superintendent's evaluation, it's hard for him to bring a staff together and say, clearly our board thinks we're not paying attention to equity, in particular racial equity, because we know they are. I feel like we're saying to them, well, you guys need to just start over because you're not taking this into consideration. So we're sending our superintendent back to a staff who has heard our direction. And then we're going to hold him accountable because we have yet another thought.
Mrs. Whitfield and Dr. Robinson, and Vice Chairwoman Brill.
So I keep thinking about what Dr. Fennoy always says to me when I call with a question. He says, what problem are you trying to solve? And I love that because it really makes me question back to myself again, what problem am I trying to solve? So I feel like if the problem that you're trying to solve is that we make sure that equity is at the front end of this, and then the strategic planning is the back end, it sounds like the schedule kind of aligns to that already. So why don't we just ask staff to make sure that that's the case? Is that not what you're going for? I see you shaking. No.
Dr. Robinson, Vice Chairwoman Brill, then Mrs. Andrews.
Dr. Robinson said I should go first. So all I was going to say was listening to Mr. Tierney's schedule, it doesn't have to be completely uprooted if you bring in somebody who is going to help facilitate it. For example, you are going to have those listening sessions. So the whole thing doesn't have to be uprooted because you're going to have somebody come in and help us with identifying what we need to do. And I do think that it's good to have fresh ideas. This isn't saying that we discount staff at all. And we do understand that we are looking at equity. All it's saying is bringing someone in who can help us get to the next level.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, God, I have a lot to say. I'm going to try to limit it. So, the problem that I'm trying, okay, let me back it up and say this. So I've been looking at disaggregated data for decades, right? And I think that I publicly apologized from this dais to whoever was on the board at that point in time when I realized that everybody wasn't looking at data, right? So now Ms. Brill just said, because she's in the Council of Great City Schools board chair cohort, then now she understands what I'm talking about. The problem I'm trying to solve is I don't know if anybody understands what the hell I'm talking about. I keep looking at this data. Yeah, we can say we're talking about racial equity. We are not walking the walk. I know that we have great staff and they want to address each child. I get it. But guess what? We're the board and we're going to have to do things to support them in doing that. And so the problem I'm trying to solve is our lack of understanding, whatever it might be. I'm not saying I know everything. I can't wait for these folks to come and teach me something. But that's the problem I'm trying to solve because I don't understand how we create a strategic plan that we own if what we get is a one session like the shiny book of the superintendent's evaluation that's just got all this data in there. And guess what I know? I know how to tell the story I want to tell with data at times. Right? And so all I'm saying is I spend time, and Mark Howard is probably sorry that he spends time with me and we sit there and play with his Excel spreadsheets. You should see the spreadsheet on acceleration. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's the problem I'm trying to solve because I don't even know how we really get to a real substantive strategic plan if we don't understand what the problems are. And to Ms. McQuinn's point, I agree with you. We want somebody who has solved the problem. But it's no school district that's walking on water. But guess what? This school district over here might have solved the problem with AP potential. So let's talk to them about that problem that we're going to address in the strategic plan. And this one over here has solved it. Let's talk to that one about this problem, right? So we can craft together, we can cobble together from our list of issues that we have identified from studying the data, and then we can go to people and get their expertise for the things that they have solved. And that's how we cobble together, in my opinion, a strategic plan. I'm all great with facilitators, Council of Great City Schools, and you know, all that's fine. All that's fine. But in answer to the question previously asked, you know what? I'm good if we decide that this strategic plan will be moved into action for August of 22. I'm fine with that, right? Because I want it done right. I want it to be rich. I want it to be real. I want it to help students and help the adults that we pay to serve them, right, in getting that work done. So, and I'm telling you, the problem I'm trying to solve is us, okay?
I'm not going to be quiet, Mr. Barbieri. I am not going to be quiet just
I'm not
because we're
asking to
ready
be
to go
quiet.
home.
Mrs. Andrews was next, so
Okay.
I'll get to you right after Mrs. Andrews.
Yes, and as I listen to this conversation, we've had the shiny books. And I do appreciate what everybody does here, but we've got to take a real inside look at the needs within our district. And this is why we pay the money to be a member, Dr. Fenoy. I know it costs the additional money to bring the consultant in, but this is why we have those conversations. Mr. Burke knows he has those conversations on the finance piece with all the folks that have like kinds of issues. We have to look at ourselves. We're not anybody else. We are Palm Beach County. We know what our needs are and where we need to go. I don't want us rushing with this strategic plan. I don't want another shiny book that has all this great stuff and we really don't know where we're going. We've got to kind of be able to get a roadmap of what the issues are, the things that did not work, looking at the data, looking at our curriculums, looking at all the pieces of the puzzle as to what we need to put in play. We may not be ready to say that we're going to have a strategic plan by this date. I would like to spend the time digesting information, looking at our district, and trying to figure out where we go from here to build a strategic plan. It's going to take money. It's going to be a budgeted piece for us to put in place to do the things that we really need to do. And once you talk about, Mr. Tierney, the things that we didn't do the last time, you all know those pieces, and I know some of those pieces. So once we begin to look at all of the pieces, we've got to disaggregate all of that and figure out where we go from here. That's why a consultant who's working with a lot of people who've had these same kind of structural issues and moving their district, they know the ins and outs of the things that caused problems before and how they were able to overcome them. We will look at ourselves and see that we had a problem here, and how do you overcome this to get to the next level? It will take time, and it can't be done just overnight. And I'm waiting to hear from people who can kind of tell me to look at it this way, this is something you need to work on. And so I think we do need it. That's why you're getting that, Ms. Brill, with those sessions. And that's a big deal that you're getting. So as a result, I want to be able for us to get that piece. And you have to look at people who are similar to how you are. They're not the same as what we are in Palm Beach County, but they're the big urban, so they're experiencing the same thing. And some of them have started this equity piece a long before us. That's what I keep telling you. They're a long way, and they've had the stumbling blocks that we're going to be going through as we work through our process. And that's where the consultant can come in and tell you, well, we've already been here before, and you may need to tweak this or tweak that. Or we may have our staff that knows exactly which way to go with this. But sometimes when you have someone that's already done it with many different groups, it can help you flow. So I think that flowing piece is important. And I really do want to go through that book, because I can tell you, when I read it over and over again, I just know that there's a lot of work to be done if we really truly are going to build a real strategic plan that's going to be meaningful, to say that we really are going to make the difference for the children's success.
Ms. McQuinn and then Mrs. Whitfield.
I'm going to keep coming back to the superintendent's leadership. I don't disagree with anybody what you're saying. I don't want a plan just for a plan. But I think that I know that he is involved with the Council of Great City Schools. I know that he has contacts. I know he's been working with them. So I just want us to remember that piece. The other piece is we can take our time. Schools will start their plans. They have a state deadline that they have to submit strategic plans for next year. Doesn't matter. They don't need our direction because they've got to do it with or without our direction.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I just want to say I'm not comfortable making a decision on this tonight at all because I'm completely, I don't have enough background on what changing the schedule will do to the schedule, what it'll do to the schools, what it's going to do to our progress as a district. We have kids that are failing. I keep thinking like we haven't thought this through. So if we could tonight just decide to at least come to the March 3rd meeting and we could have a better discussion where I can actually have some data and information on what this whole change would look like and mean. And I'd love to know the cost of the Insight group as well, or whatever the group is that you want to bring in from Council of Great City Schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitfield. Dr. Robinson.
Insights is free to us. It's a grant. People have given us grant money for that one.
Sorry, the Council of Great City Schools people, how much they're going to cost.
Listen, guys, you may get angry with me, but we got to wrap this up. I mean, we can't just, everybody wants to keep going over the same thing. So we've agreed that we're going to let him do it on March 3rd, what he's going to do, and we're going to look at the schedule that Mr. Tierney has, and we're done with this tonight. I mean, what's the point of saying it over and over and over again in different ways, right? Dr. Robinson, okay?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say, Mr. Barbieri. So
Well, you don't even have to say it now because I
that's
said
why I
it.
started laughing. But the other thing is staff has heard the conversation. And so they can take from that, and then March 3rd, they can give us pros, cons, whatever.
All
The
right.
conversation is good.
All right, so we're done with this discussion item. We need a motion to adjourn. Everybody made the motion and everybody's in favor. Meeting is adjourned.